Hey guys, this is Frank Yecker, and you're listening to Submission Radio.
Hey, this is Rich Franklin.
What's up, everybody? This is Chris Lieben.
This is Diego Sanchez, Randy Couture,
Alistair Overeem.
Hi, this is Stephen Bonner.
This is Don Fry.
Hey, I'm Phil, Mr. Wonderful Davis.
TJ Dillashaw.
You're listening to Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
You're listening to Submission Radio.
Welcome to Submission Radio, episode 129. It's Wednesday, the 21st of June. Dennis Scratoff here with Kasper Ozolowski in an electrifying world and week in combat sports. The big fight was announced right after we finished the show last week, and now it's our chance to really break it down and get into it, isn't it, Cass?
It's going to be a big old discussion about the McGregor-Mayweather fight. A lot of things have been discussed already, so we're going to try and keep it fresh. And we have, of course, as per usual, some sexy guests. Believe it or not, Nate Jones, who is Floyd Mayweather's assistant trainer, will be joining us on the program towards the end of the show to talk about, well, of course, the McGregor-Mayweather fight. We're curious to ask him a lot of questions. The game plan was to get Owen Roddy on the program as well, so you get a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, some from the Mayweather camp, some from the McGregor camp. We were actually supposed to have Owen Roddy on last week. We rescheduled for this week. Unfortunately, schedule conflicts in this crazy time where everything's happening all the same time for everybody in both Mayweather camps and the McGregor camps. It wasn't able to come together, but hopefully we'll get Owen Roddy on in the future. We do have other sexy guests. Those include Michael Johnson, who is taking on Justin Gaethje very, very shortly. We've never had Michael Johnson on the program, so we're very excited to speak to him. And of course, Cris Cyborg. It's been a long time that we've wanted to have Cris Cyborg back on the program. She's got this fight official with Megan Anderson. There's a lot to discuss with Cris Cyborg, and that's not it. We've got a lot more to discuss and a lot more guests, don't we, Dennis?
Yeah, we've got some friends joining us on the show. Sheehan's going to join us to talk about Bellator NYC. That's a little bit of a forgotten about card, but that is stacked to the deck, and there's so many great fights to talk about there. So he'll be joining us and breaking down some of the key fights from that. And of course, talking about UFC Oklahoma, there's some great fights happening there. Chiesa, Lee, Hendricks, Tim Bosch, a lot of stuff to talk about. BJ Penn is on that card. Did you guys forget? Well, there's a reminder there. So we'll be talking to him about that. And then finally, Damon Martin will be on the program. And this is where we really get into the nitty-gritty and discuss this Mayweather-McGregor fight, share our opinions, and a whole bunch of topics and issues leading into this fight, and really sort of getting into this thing thick, Cass, but really figure out what's going to be happening from here, how this fight might play out, how this promotion might play out, people's thoughts on it, how this pay-per-view might sell, a whole bunch of stuff. What would happen if Conor McGregor somehow beat Mayweather? What would happen after that? So we really get into it, discuss all of it. You guys won't be disappointed. That's at the end of the show. We'll be covering pretty much everything there is to talk about with this big fight. It's so excited to finally talk about it, Cass.
You know, one of the things that I'm most excited is to hear what you guys think. So if you have any thoughts, and we know you do, by all means, drop them below in the comment section if you are watching on YouTube. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to hit that like button if you will be enjoying the show. If you aren't on YouTube, if you are listening via iTunes or Stitcher or any other platforms, feel free to drop us a tweet at SubmissionAUS. Our DMs are open. We don't even need to be following you, so you can message us. You can email us at info@submissionradio.com. We love chatting with you guys. If you are enjoying the program, feel free to jump on iTunes, give us a cheeky review, however many stars you think we are worth. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. But without further ado, with all the housekeeping out of the way, it's time to get a massive, massive show underway. And Dennis, I believe we have our first guest on the line, and you're about to introduce him.
All right, guys, our next guest is headlining the TUF 25 finale against UFC newcomer Justin Gaethje in a fight which has fans excited around the world. He is a former UFC Fight of the Night, Knockout of the Night, and Performance of the Night winner, the number 6th ranked lightweight in the world. He joins us here for the first time on Submission Radio. Michael Johnson, welcome to the program.
Hi, man. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
It's a huge pleasure. We've wanted you on for a long time, so it's a great day. And we know early this month you actually celebrated your birthday. Tell us, what was the celebration like, and did you get any interesting presents?
Yeah, no, I'm in the middle of training camp, so nothing like a birthday exists. Unfortunately, mine came in the middle of training camp. So I just relaxed, took it easy. I trained that morning, and that was it. I'll celebrate after July 7th is over with. Nope.
Yeah, is this the first birthday that you've had during a training camp, or is it something that you're used to?
It's something that I became familiar with. Always competing and wrestling. You always end up having like matches or fights around like Christmas or holidays like that. And actually, it's a coincidence. on the fight to get into the house, on the tough finale, I was sitting in the sauna cutting weight on my birthday, to get in the house for tough 11. So that was interesting story on that as well.
Wow. I can't think of a worst birthday present. Hey, happy birthday. Now you got to sit in the sauna, cut weight. I'm also curious, what was the food situation like this past birthday? Because I imagine no birthday cake. Did someone make you like a makeshift, I don't know, vegetable birthday cake just to make it feel like you're, receiving a birthday cake?
Actually, I keep my weight pretty down and in shape and good, so I was actually able to have a pretty unhealthy piece of birthday cake.
Hey.
I just had to pay for it the next day.
That's all right, man. There's only one type of a birthday cake, and that's the unhealthy ones. Those are the only ones that count. Now, let's talk. Before we talk about this great big fight that everybody's excited about, we just want to touch on your last fight with Khabib at UFC 205. You had some success on the feet, but you ended up losing on the ground while Khabib was sort of talking to you and Dana White in between rounds. And I know that some time has passed, so I'm just wondering, what have you taken away from that experience? And have you been able to move on from that fight?
You're never really able to move on from losses. And if any other fighter tells you otherwise, they're lying or they're trying to play a different game, at least from my experiences. But that will always be with me, and it'll always help me get better. A fight like that will turn me into a champion. So it was pretty actually hilarious when I went back and watched it. That he was talking in the middle of it, and but my hat's off to him. He's a great fighter, but I hope I can get that rematch here pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, we were actually watching the other day as well. We were watching the Meaty Day stare downs. We were there live, and I mean, it must have been a strange experience. You're in MSG against a guy that you were pretty friendly with prior to the fight, and he's saying all that stuff during the fight. I'm curious, what went through your mind, and what did you sort of take away and learn from that experience?
Actually in the fight, nothing was going through my mind except move and try to get up and not get this fight stopped. You know what I mean? So just everything is a learning experience. I need to get better in certain positions. That's no secret, and I've been working to improve that.
Well, let's talk about training for a second, because training-wise, we know there's been a little bit of a change as well. Henry Hooft now coaches out of Combat Club MMA. And what exactly was that move like from you, from the Black Zillions? And are you still with the Black Zillions and training with Henry, or are you completely training with Henry now over there at Combat Club MMA?
We're just over at Combat Club MMA. I'm no longer a Black Zillion. I'm not part of that team anymore. They're doing their own thing. So, I just parted ways, and I stuck with Henry. I stuck with Greg Jones. And, we're building a pretty successful unit, and, we got some big things in the works.
I mean, it must have been a big shift mentally leaving a place like that. You training for so long, getting used to a new routine. Have you sort of gotten used to your new surroundings at Combat Club MMA, and would you say you've gotten settled?
Yeah, absolutely. All I need is a mat and a few bags and my training partners. And, that's what ended up happening. I still got all my training partners with me. And, we have a great facility, and it's just us in there, and, we're all helping each other to get better.
I mean, Henry, for a long time, he's been regarded as a guy that's an amazing trainer in MMA, great striking coach, and so much success he's had with a lot of different other fighters. Can you tell us, what is it about that partnership of you and Henry that kind of works for you?
We both understand each other, and, he's bluntly honest, the same as me, and, he's going to tell me what I need to work on, and he's not going to sugarcoat anything, and, you need coaches like that in your corner. He's the guy that's never going to, turn his back on you when things get hard and tough, and, we've built a very well rapport, we're on the same page to build a champion and to walk away with the title.
We remember hearing Anthony Rumble Johnson talk about his special bond with Henry Hooft. He seems like a guy that really sort of gets in touch with fighters. I'm just curious though, what exactly led you to leave the Black Zillions? Because for a long time that was one of the more dominant groups in MMA. From your experience being there, what exactly went wrong with the gym, and what led you to sort of leave and do something else?
It was just a choice of who I needed to stick with that was going to make me a better fighter. And, not getting into any details, some things went on that, that wasn't on my end. I had nothing to do with it. And, I just stuck with the group I needed to stick with. So.
Well, Michael, you almost had another fight at UFC 209 when Khabib had to pull out. I'm just wondering, going back to that moment in time, how close did the fight get to actually coming together? And were you disappointed when it didn't end up happening?
Yeah, I was actually very disappointed that it didn't end up happening. It was extremely close. Me and Dana talked after I offered that I could fight, and we were just waiting on Tony to make a decision, and he declined it at like the last second. So, I was ready to go and try to cut as much as like 13 pounds within like 5-6 hours, and
wow.
He said no. So I don't know why he said no. I would have jumped on that, especially if I was him, ready to fight a guy that already beat me. So
that's a crazy situation. I believe from Tony's end, he mentioned it was sort of monetary reasons, but what goes through your mind when you sort of make that preparation to cut that amount of weight in such a short amount of time? We imagine that takes a lot of balls to do something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing I had on my mind was to get ready. It's about to be a hard 5-6 hours, but I had my coaches with me, I had my teammates, and we were ready to get the job done and go compete the next day. So, unfortunately, he said no.
Yeah, and of course, everybody knows you beat him once via decision. How do you think that UFC 209 rematch would have gone between you and Tony if it would have happened? I mean, it's a crazy amount of weight to cut, but how do you think it would have played out?
I would have won. That's how I think it would have played out. I would have went in and got another decision again.
Well, just speaking of the division,
or a knockout. I would have went in and got the win.
Mm-hmm. And just speaking of the division in itself, how do you feel about the current landscape? Khabib's future is uncertain. McGregor is fighting Mayweather. RDA is gone, and Ferguson is kind of in limbo at the moment. No one knows what's going on. How do you see the division at the moment?
It's time for me to come in and take over. Everybody's sitting around and waiting on this fight and waiting on that fight and not really signing up to fight. Nobody wants to fight. It's strange. So I just need to, handle business and take care of Justin in a few weeks and, call my shot.
As someone in the division high up, do you think there should be a new champion crowned in the division while Conor's UFC future is uncertain?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, that title got vacated when Conor signed the box. Mayweather, and hats off to him. He's gonna make a killer, win or lose. I would have did the same thing. I don't see a champion in our division. He made that switch right now. So who knows? We'll see what happens in the next few months.
Do you buy the rumors of him returning at the end of the year and defending the lightweight belt, or are you sort of preparing that there's going to be new title contenders and a new champion pretty soon?
I hope I see him again. I hope we see him in the cage again. He's great to watch. He's great for the sport. And, I myself included, I would love to see him back.
And I mean, before we talk about this huge fight you got with Justin, just want to get a quick prediction from you. I mean, everybody's trying to figure out what's going to happen here. Are you giving him a chance against Mayweather here? Do you believe he can get it done?
Yeah, my honest opinion, I could care less about the fight, honestly. It's happening, good for him, good for Floyd. And, I just need to focus on myself and what I need to do. So, I'm not really too interested in what the outcome is going to be.
All right, fair enough. Well, look, let's stick to your fight then. Justin Gaethje is obviously someone who's known for his exciting style and being the World Series of Fighting long-time lightweight champion. What did you think when he was presented as your next opponent?
I was excited for it. Justin's the guy that always brings the fight to his opponent. He's always in there. He's always ready to fight. And, that's what I like. I like guys that are going to go in there and fight. And, that's what I got. He's always been, one of the better lightweights in the world. So now it's time for him to really test his skills.
I mean, you're highly ranked in the lightweight division. Was he the guy that you wanted originally, or did you have some other names in mind that you wanted over him? He was just, I was asked to fight him, and I said yes. I was wondering who I was going to fight next. It was maybe Evan Dunham. A few other names got thrown around, but this was the fight that landed on our desk, and of course we're going to accept it.
Mm-hmm. You and him had a bit of a back and forth at the UFC press conference. How did you enjoy that experience, and did you learn anything about him when you sort of looked into his eyes during his stare down, or the trash talk that the two of you engaged in?
The press conference was fun. It's there to see if you could get under the other guy's skin, and I think I succeeded in that. So I think I might have got him a little mad and angry. That might be good for us.
You mentioned how he's an exciting fighter. Have you had much of a chance to watch some of his previous fights in World Series of Fighting, and sort of how do you rate him as a fighter?
Yeah, I've watched some of his fights. He fought a former teammate of mine, and Luis Buscapé, and Buscapé was actually beating him until the ref and the doctors called that fight. So, I watch him. I just take from him, that everybody else does. He's an aggressive puncher, and he likes to fight. And, unfortunately, I like to do that as well. So we're going to have a good one on our hands.
Yeah, for sure. Well, there's no doubt the fact that Justin, he doesn't always follow the, I guess, quote-unquote, wisest strategies, choosing instead to go for the, exciting wins, sometimes at his own cost. Do you believe that we'll see the same Justin in the fight with you at the TUF finale, or are you sort of expecting, maybe a little bit more of a conservative and possibly different Justin who utilizes his wrestling and grappling?
I hope I see the same Justin, because at the end of the day, we're only as good as who we really are. And if that's the fighter he really is, then that's the fighter we're going to see. So, I hope that Justin shows up July 7th. Now, if I think he's going to show up, we'll see how that plays out.
What did you think about him promising on the MMA hour that he expects to get knocked out in the next 10 fights? It's not something you usually hear fighters say. Do you see a scenario where it may happen in this fight?
Of course I see that scenario. Be careful what you wish for. That's all I can say. If he sees that coming, then he's putting that out in the universe for himself. And, the funny thing is the universe tends to give you what you ask for. And, he's asking for it. He's putting it out there, so watch out.
He's obviously undefeated at 17-0, and you faced a lot of tough guys in your career. Is there sort of extra motivation for you to be the first one to give him the first loss on his record?
No, there's no extra motivation in me being the first one to give him a loss. It's just motivation for me to continue my journey in the UFC. A loss is not an option for me. It does nothing for me, and it puts me in a very bad position. I need to go out here, I need to put on a dominant performance, and I need a statement fight, and that's what's going to happen to us.
What do you think about the competition that he's faced in the past? Do you think he'll be sort of surprised by the level of competition in the UFC, specifically yourself?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a little shocked, but, he's been around the block. He's got 17 fights. He's fought in guys that have fought all over the world in different organizations. He's fought in previous champs before. So he's not going to see anything that he hasn't seen before. I'm definitely the fastest guy that he's faced, and I think I'm the most dangerous guy that he's going to face. We'll see how things play out.
And just take us into that a little bit, if you can, Michael. Obviously, you mentioned some of your advantages just now. You're obviously a strong wrestler, a really good striker as well. How do you see yourself matching up against him from a technical aspect?
He did mention that he's a D1 All-American, and, I've fought in the best wrestlers in the world. I've fought in, numerous black belts, and, it's not a wrestling match. It's not a jiu-jitsu match. So we're going to go in there. We're going to fight. My training partners are great at what they do. I fight great grapplers every day in the gym. So it's just going to be another wrestler, on my resume that I have to fight.
I mean, let's take us back for a second, Michael. We've seen some huge improvements in your UFC career. What do you think is the biggest difference between the Michael Johnson we saw in The Ultimate Fighter to the one we see now about to fight at the Ultimate Fighter finale in the headlining fight?
I think it's obvious, my experience and my knowledge of the game. I've taken the time to become a student, and I still am learning, and I'm trying to pick up new things every day. And like I said, it's a process for me, and it's a journey. So, I know how to, pick my shots and do what I need to do to win. It's all about being a veteran at this stage of the game right now. And, it's all about making the right moves. It's a chess game. Early in my career, it was more of a checkers game to me. But, now it's turned into a chess game.
I love it. And I'm also wondering, you're going in there. You just mentioned before that you need to go in and handle your business against Justin Gaethje, and then you're going to call your shot. I know fighters never want to look past their opponents, but are you sort of already picturing, this wide open the division, you getting in the win? Do you know what your shot is? Do you sort of have someone in mind that you sort of thinking about already fighting and sort of your direct path to getting that title shot?
No, I don't have anybody in mind. Like I said, my focus is 110% Justin. And, that's where it needs to be. I can never look past anybody. I can never underestimate anyone. I've done that in the past, and I've learned my lesson.
All right, well, the fight goes down on July 7th at the Tough Redemption finale. Give us the official prediction, Michael. How do you see yourself winning this fight?
I see myself winning by knockout. I'm going to play the game smart just like I need to. And I'm going to take Justin out of his element. So he's in for a rude awakening.
All right, well, there you go, guys. Very fan-friendly matchup. Make sure to follow Michael on Twitter @FollowTheMenace and Instagram @Menace155. The fight goes down on July 7th in the US and the 8th here in Australia due to the time difference. Thank you so much for taking the time with us, Michael. Really appreciate it, and good luck in the fight.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
This is Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to Submission Radio.
All right, guys. Our next guest is a multiple-time world champion. She's a former Strikeforce champion, a former Invicta champion, and she'll finally be fighting for the UFC featherweight title, UFC 214, against Megan Anderson. We are very excited to welcome Cris Cyborg Justino back to Submission Radio. Cris, welcome back to the program. How's it going today?
Good, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to my fans a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're so happy to have you on the program. And congratulations on the big fight, considering how the last few months have been for you. How exciting is it for you to finally have an opponent and to be fighting for the UFC featherweight title?
The one thing I'm really happy, I'm after 2 years, I'm going to fight my division, 145, and this is really changed the move for training. I train really more motivated because it's less stress about the weight, about just focus more on the training. And, I'm very excited for fight for the belt. For me, I'm going to defend my belt and fight with Megan Anderson. For me, it's really nice because she holds the belt, Invicta belt now. And I think it'll be like a unification. We're supposed to fight before. And then you'll be amazed. You're going to fight for title belt in UFC 145.
Absolutely, and this is obviously the fight that people wanted to see. Everybody heard you and Megan agree to fight each other on the MMA Hour. When did the UFC first approach you about doing this fight?
About Megan, then don't tell me, like, soon she's I'm no too. Because in the beginning, I already said I'd like fight contender number 2. It's Megan Anderson. And then they waited, then Megan announced in the Invicta, and then after that, I'm so happy Sheehan opened the door, opened the door for she can fight me in the UFC because she's already have scheduled in Invicta. But I knew about it soon Megan Anderson too. I don't know. People know yesterday, maybe 1 week.
I mean, Tito Ortiz was on our show last week, and he said there were 3 possible girls to choose from. Who else was offered for you as an opponent for UFC 214?
I understand. What did it say?
Tito Ortiz said there were 3 girls as options. Who were the other girls? Was Kat Zingano one of the options?
They asked about Kat Zingano, and then Kat Zingano no because they asked, but because she's want this fight. But I think since the first time I have the fight about belt, Holly Holm, and then Germany, I don't think that this fight makes sense before for the first belt because Holly now fight 135. She's come from 2 losses and fight for the belt. And the Holland girl can get a hold of the belt. She's not fight 145 too either. And then 7 years, I think, she not fight. The last time she fought in Strikeforce. I don't agree about this fight and the fight for the belt because each girl it's no below 145 pounds. How are you gonna fight for the belt if you're not below 45 pounds? And then I think the right fight to do it's somebody else 145. How do you make title belt fight if you don't be 145 pounds? It's the belt for feather division. And then this is the agreement. If Kat Zingano don't have any problem fight her. But I think she's have to fight 145 and make her quarter about 145. You cannot jump You cannot jump in the line and stay in the front of the line for a fight for the belt if you know below the fight 145 pounds.
The crazy
thing
thing.
You have to respect the rankings about 145 pounds, because if you do like this, look like you don't respect 145 pounds.
Yeah, and well, speaking of respect and the rankings, the crazy thing is that the reason why you're fighting Megan for the belt is because Germaine de Randamie refused to fight you. What did you think about that, Cris?
When she's getting to her belt, I already knew. When I was in Brooklyn, we already knew she's not going to fight. If you hold home, get the belt, or Germany get the belt, I was already talking to my team. We already knew both are not going to fight. They knew they have to fight. Who hold the belt have to fight against Cyborg. We don't know. We already know they have a plan back to 135. Maybe try to get a hold of the belt to 135 will be the first woman, I don't know, hold the two belts. We already know they're not going to fight me straight away. I don't know if she think it is, then say yes, you're going to fight, but don't sign anything before for agreement, say you're going to fight Cyborg before they hold the belt to both girls. I already know they're not going to defend the belt. I think they're going to try to draw back to the division and then fight to 135. If you hold the belt, it'll be the first fight, it'll be hold the two belts. Not surprise me. Not surprise me. We already knew that.
The interesting thing is that in February, Germaine said that you were a great champion and it would be an honor to fight you. But then recently, the reason she gave, she said, or her manager said, that she believes you're a proven cheater. What did you think about the reason that she gave for not wanting to fight you?
I think she's scared. She don't want to fight. I don't think it's about money. I don't know. Maybe it's about money. She wants more money. Doesn't see more money. And then, about saying I'm cheater, it's the same excuse that Ronda Rousey used. And it's the same excuse Ronda Rousey used before. I don't fight her because cheater. Everybody see her. When she fights someone punch, like Holly Holm, beat her, and she's retired. And then all the girls, no one fight me, and they find excuse me, don't want to fight, and they call me cheater. But for me, man, don't change, because I have the same program that all the fighters in UFC, USADA. I'm the first fighter before being UFC. I signed 1 year with USADA. USADA tested me before all my fights, before I went to UFC 1 year. And then this is proof I'm a clean athlete. And if you guys no one trusts in USADA, it's the best. They have this job, show it's the fight is safe and clean, And then for me, don't change my life. I just keep training, and the weight I know this is just insurance for they don't fight me.
Do you think that this situation has worked out better because now you're actually facing a featherweight in Megan Anderson, who is also the current Invicta champion?
Again, sorry.
Are you more happy to be fighting Megan instead of Germaine, because now you're fighting a real featherweight?
It's not about happy. It's about respect the line, respect who's the line fight for the belt. I think she's deserves fight for the belt. I think she's 145 pounder, and I think she deserves. I think it's not about more happy or not happy. I think Megan Anderson, she deserves because she's 145 pounds. And then this is the reason. But I don't have any problem. I can fight Germaine. I know you can. This fight are gonna come in again. They're gonna ask for she's fight me if you want to fight me again. I don't think this is gonna finish this story about she's fighting me or not fighting me. I think this fight can come, And then if this opportunity come, okay, you're gonna fix everything, say cash.
Speaking of the Megan Anderson fight, how do you see the fight playing out? How do you see yourself winning this fight? How do you see this fight going down at UFC 214?
I think Megan Anderson is coming from 4 KOs, and then I think she's holding the Invicta belt, and I think she likes strike too, like me. I think it'll be exciting fight for all my fans, but MMA. You can have any plans, and then MMA you can do ground gaming, ground stand-up gaming. I think you have a lot of options for you can do, But everybody know my game. Everybody know I like to go KO and then my opponents, and I don't think this fight is gonna be different. And if you should be prepared for this, it'll be a nice fight for everyone.
Cris, we have to ask you, a lot of people weren't sure whether you would fight at UFC 214 because there was obviously the situation with you and Angela Magana at the UFC Athletes Retreat. Were you worried at all about this incident affecting your UFC career?
I don't have anything to talk to her. My lawyer handled this, and my fans know what really happened, and then I leave my lawyer, and I don't think they change anything in my life and my career.
It's interesting because obviously you were very unhappy with the UFC initially. We've spoken to you before where you had to cut weight and they didn't put you in the featherweight weight class. Now that you're fighting for the featherweight title, how is your relationship with the UFC? Have things gotten better?
We just did one meeting and scheduled the fight. I don't have any problem about that because I really want to fight. 10 months I don't fight, and let's see. Let's see what they're gonna do. Let's see what's then gonna keep the words and do something for help me. Be against me, and I just have to be ready for my next fight and the wait if they want to keep work with me or not. I leave them hands there.
Reports say that you have 2 fights left with the UFC, but your contract expires in October. Are you planning on reevaluating your options in October, Cris?
I know, if I get the belt, UFC belt, I'm gonna have to stay 1 year, and then because it's the champion contract, and I have 2 fights left. My contract is probably gonna finish in December, and then probably if I get the belt, I have to stay 1 year and they have a belt. But let's see, I wanna keep trying working with UFC, but if it doesn't work, something I can control, and then let's see what's gonna happen.
What would it mean to you to become the UFC champion at UFC 214? For a long time, people have wanted to see you have the title in the UFC. What would it mean to you if you do beat Megan Anderson at UFC 214 and you do become the champion?
I think when I get a hold of the UFC belt, I think people are gonna see me. She's the world champ. She's the best world. I think not just a couple fans, but the real UFC. They're gonna respect me because I'm 10 years undefeated. I hold will be the 3rd belt I'm gonna hold, and maybe for hold this belt I'm gonna have respect from them. And then for me, belt for me it doesn't mean nothing. I really like to go inside cage and then do my best over there for all my fans, because then make the show happen. And it'll be one more fight for me, for same I told you, it'll be one fight, one title defense for me.
Talk to us about your training, Cris. Whereabouts will you be training for this fight, and are you doing anything differently for Megan Anderson? Because she said recently that she believes that you might want to take this fight to the ground once you feel her power.
I have any option. I'm brown belt jiu-jitsu. I do wrestling. But I like the stand up. But she has to be ready for any situation. If I have the opportunity to take down her, I will. And then if I have the opportunity to KO her, I will. And then she just have to prepare for the situation. I don't make plans like it. Just think about that one punch, and because I know it's after one punch everybody change the game. And then I just train for be ready for the situation. I train stand up, I train wrestling, I train jiu-jitsu with Kleber, Cobrinha. This fight now, last fight I trained with Cobrinha too, but this fight I did more upgrade my ground game. But no, I don't tell about this fight, but I think I have to keep improve my game, keep getting better, and I have any options. I want to do what I feel at fight. When I go inside fight, I feel, man, I cannot take down her, I will. I can submit her, I will, and then and KO, I will. But everybody know my game. I like KO fighters. My opponents. I like to do my style fight, but I have the other options too.
Yeah, wow. Well, we're so excited for the fight. Thank you so much, Cris, for your time. For all the fans out there listening right now, we like to ask this question at the end. I know this is going to be a very, very exciting fight, but if you had to choose an official prediction of what round and how the fight finishes and how you win, what stands out in your mind? Do you have an official prediction?
I'm ready for 5 rounds. I will train hard for 5 rounds. I don't like thinking the fight is going to finish in the first round. But, I want KO. I want KO her, and then finish. It'll be the real nice, KO. But maybe can be my first umpire to some umpire to the mission. We don't know, but let's see. And I want to say thank for the opportunity. Thank for all my fans. I'm really happy. My fans that always support me. And I hope everyone come and watch in California. It'll be close to my house. And I'm very happy and feel very blessed for this opportunity. And that's it. Thank you, guys. Thank you. If you guys live in Australia, want to bring me for a sponsor, for the seminar, something like that, send the email for me, Cris Cyborg, gmail.com. And it'll be my pleasure. It'll be amazing. Thank you, guys.
There you go. Thank you so much, guys. Follow Cris Cyborg on Twitter at Cris Cyborg. And the fight is July 29th, the UFC 214 versus Megan Anderson at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. We'll be there covering it live. And again, thank you so much for your time, Cris. Good luck in the fight.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Ariel Helwani, and you're listening to Submission Radio with my two favorite mates, Dennis and Casper.
All right, guys, our next guest is a National Golden Gloves champion in 1994 and 1995, the winner of the bronze medal boxing at the 1996 Summer Olympics. He is now a big part of the money team as Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s assistant trainer and strategist. He joins us here today. Nate Jones, welcome to Submission Radio. How's it going?
How you doing, brother? How you doing, Australia? This is Nate Jones. How you doing,
Nate, thank you so much for joining us on the program. And we can understand it's a busy time, an exciting time right now for you with the Conor McGregor fight finally being announced. Tell us, what's happening in your life right now? It must be a crazy turnaround. Has training begun? What are you doing right now? We know you're in the gym.
Well, right now we're training. We're getting ready for this big fight with McGregor. We know that this is a big fight and it's mega fight. And so we're just getting ready to get prepared for, we don't take nobody lightly. We're working hard because at all times we got to, Floyd knows he takes no one lightly. And this is a serious fight for his legacy. And it means everything to Floyd. It don't matter if he's in the ring with McGregor or Pacquiao, he's going to train the same and very hard. So we're ready.
All right, so Nate, we've seen you in countless videos with Floyd, but for all the fans out there listening, tell us about your relationship with Floyd. How did it all start, and what exactly do you do with him leading up to a fight? What exactly is your role?
Well, I met Floyd in 1994, getting ready to. We was fighting in the National Golden Glove tournament, hopefully to qualify for the Olympics that was coming around in 1996. So in 1994, I met this kid that talked so much smack, but I never seen him fight yet. Every morning he would be talking how tough he is, how bad he is, but I never seen him fight. So by the time the semifinals came, this kid was steady talking how good he was, and I just walked up to him and said, I can't wait to see you fight because you talk a lot of smack. So later on that day when the fight was about to happen, I seen this kid walk into the ring. I said, yeah, there go that kid from Michigan that talk a lot of smack. Let me go watch you fight because I want to see how good you say you are. And before he got out the ring, I bowed to him. Because I never seen nothing like him. He demolished this guy within like one round, and he looked tremendous. And so from that point on, he asked me, he said, who you fighting? I said, I'm fighting that guy right there. He said, you fighting this guy right here? Raynon Woods? I said, yeah. He said, well, let me see what you do. So I ended up stopping Raynon. Anyway, we both ended up winning the National Golden Glove team, winning the National Golden Gloves, and we both made the USA team. So we started traveling across the country together, and across the world together, fighting different countries, and we became the best of friends. And from that day on, when I met him and seen him fight, he became my best friend. And it's been the same ever since. And what I am to Floyd when he's in the ring and then when he's training now is his eye. I make sure he keep his fundamentals. I make sure he don't bend his back. I make sure he drop his thumb. I make sure that he don't have his feet too wide. Because when these young boys get in the ring with a veteran like Floyd, most of these young kids don't have fundamentals. And what we lack, when we lose our speed and our power, we don't lose our fundamentals. So fundamentals keep you on top at the end of the day. Anybody that you know that's fundamentally sound in any sport, go the farthest. Floyd is very fundamentally sound, and we work on that every time we're in the gym. And I remind them, your back too straight, so off your thumb. Your feet too wide, Floyd. Keep your feet straight. Don't be wild with your movement. Them the things I remind him of, because Floyd's already a champion. He's already great. He just needs every now and then someone to remind him to keep him on top of his game, and that's what I do.
Wow, that's amazing, Nate. Let's talk about this fight for a couple of minutes. I mean, Well, a lot of people sort of trying to figure out what really drew Floyd to taking this fight with Conor McGregor. Some say it's obviously the huge money that's involved. Others saying it's getting the 50-0 record. But from your perspective, what do you think was the thing that drew Floyd to actually accepting a fight with Conor McGregor?
Because Floyd accepts any challenge. This is a challenge to Floyd. Floyd wants to be able to show the world that he is the best in whatever sport he does. Floyd wants to show everyone that no matter what you do, you got to work hard in. No matter what you do, you got to believe in. This is a fight for legacy with Floyd. This is something that's going to draw a lot of a good fan base for Floyd. It's going to let a lot of people see how great he is. It's MMA combined with boxing, and that's something that boxing needs. I mean, for real, Floyd is doing it for the legacy of the game because the boxing is lightly dying. But MMA, with the blend of boxing, is going to bring an attraction that the world ain't never seen before. And this may happen again. This may open the door, and somewhere in the future, this can happen again. So Floyd is just getting boxing a little bit more recognition. And that's what boxing needs right now because a lot of worldwide fans from boxing is dying out, and they pick it up in MMA, and he's just trying to steal the fans back and put boxing back where it needs to be.
I mean, you speak about the world of boxing. This fight has had a lot of criticism from the boxing world. Oscar De La Hoya wrote an open letter condemning the bout, saying our sport might not ever recover. What did you think when you saw Oscar's comments and some of the criticism from the boxing world?
First of all, Oscar is one of my Olympian comrades he was in the 92 Olympics and I was in the 96. So I'm not going to knock him or disrespect him in any type of way. But sure. I guarantee you this, if he has the opportunity to do it, he will do it. The boxing need another push. And Floyd is giving it another push. And if he had Floyd Mayweather, he wouldn't be saying this. He wouldn't be saying nothing. He'd be letting the fight go on. It's just, to me, it's just the fact that he's not able to do it, and he's not in those shoes to do it, and Floyd's able to do it. And that's one thing he's mad at. But it's going to bring boxing back where it needs to be. It's going to bring more MMA fans to boxing and get the world back appreciating boxing like they once used to do.
Wow. And talk to us about Conor McGregor as far as when he sort of first popped up on yours and the Money Team's radar. Did you guys watch many of his fights or follow his career along the way? And we've had UFC fighters say that Floyd approached them back in 2015 about helping them prepare for Conor McGregor. How long has this sort of been in planning from the team?
Well, for me, I've been hearing for the last 9 or 8 months of them talking about the fight. And I knew that it was a possibility that this fight can happen. But like I tell Floyd, and I'm going to remind Floyd that this fight, you can't. Anyone that's great in anything, you must respect it. Tiger Woods can fight a little bit. Michael Jordan is tough. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is tough. Anybody that's tough has a certain DNA. So we're not going to take them lightly. And I don't care what no one says. You know what I'm saying? This is something that you must train hard for. It's just something that you must focus on. Because anyone great can be great at any night. And no matter whatever sport it is, they can be great at any night. And that's one thing we're aware of. That's one thing we want to be on top of our game about us being prepared. And that's because anyone that's great can be great at any night.
Have you had much of a chance to watch much tape on McGregor? And what do you think about his boxing skills from what you've seen in his UFC fights?
Well, I'm going to say this much. I think he has good, first of all, he's wiry. He's a little bit longer than Floyd. And I think that he has tremendous punching power. And when someone that gets carried that and wiry and he's game, he's nutsy. He will pull anything off. He will try anything. And them are the type of guys you got to worry about. This is not a walk in the park for Floyd. We're not going to take it like it's one. We're going to train like we're fighting Mike Tyson or Pacquiao, you know what I'm saying, or Alvarez or someone like that. We're going to work hard because at any given time, anybody can hit you with a shot. And he got tremendous punch power in his MMA fights. He's been really, really punch. And anybody can hit. You just play out to stay on top of this game. We can't get hit with a shot that's going to hurt us. Don't think it ain't possible that Floyd can get hit with a shot and maybe hurt. And that's one thing we're going to prepare for, and that's one thing we're going to be ready for. We got to be ready for the unexpected. Anything can happen tonight.
And just curious, how do you prepare Floyd for a guy like McGregor? Do you sort of need to do anything different and adapt your training methods to Conor's, potentially unorthodox style? You say you respect him as a legitimate test, or do you sort of keep the training camp the same, seeing as Floyd's already beaten some of the best boxers in the world, and you just keep doing what you've been doing all these years?
We're going to keep doing what we've been doing. We're going to train hard like we fight Mike Tyson. And one thing we're going to be aware of is his punching power. You know what I'm saying? Because McGregor, I don't think McGregor has enough skill to outbox Floyd and win a boxing match. I think McGregor has enough punching power to land a couple of big shots with Floyd and hurt Floyd. And that's one thing we're going to be, that's what I'm going to be concerned about with Floyd. I'm going to make sure his hands is up. I'm going to make sure we don't look at him like an easy walk in the park. Our hands going to be up like we're fighting Mike Tyson. Our skills going to be together like we're fighting Mike Tyson. Our speed going to be together like we're fighting Mike Tyson. Or we're fighting Pacquiao. Our hands going to be right. We're going to be mentally prepared. Our condition going to be like we're fighting Pacquiao or Mike Tyson. We're going to be ready for this fight no matter what. No one else say we're training like never before because we don't want, us to lose our legacy. Floyd been saying this his whole life. He's going to be the best fighter ever lived, and that's what he's been training on. That's why he trained. That's what he believes in, and that's what he knows. That hard work pays. Floyd works harder than anybody in any sport I ever met, and we're not going to take them lightly, and we're not going to lose. We're going to be prepared for anything. We will win that fight, but I don't know how exactly, but I know we're going to win.
Conor McGregor's striking coach, Owen Roddy, predicted that McGregor will get the finish mid-fight a couple of rounds in. From your perspective, is there a way that you see this fight playing out?
Well, basically, I'm going to be in the corner with Floyd. I'm going to be working, you know what I mean? Basically, I'm just going to see what he got. And if from that point on, I'm going to let Floyd know what to be aware of. I mean, you never know how his arm reach compared with Floyd. You never know how, because style make fights. We don't never know. He may be awkward for Floyd. Floyd may be awkward and deceiving for him. And he may be the same for Floyd. When a fight happens, that's when you know what you'll be able to tell your fighter what to do and what to be aware of and what to stay on point about. It's going to be very interesting. I've seen a couple of sparring sessions. I don't take none of that lightly. Most of that work could be fake work. You know what I'm saying? I look like it can be something that they want to put on social media just to distract us and have us thinking that it's going to be an easy night. We don't pay that no attention. Floyd not going to look at it no way. You know what I'm saying? I'll look at it, but we're not going to pay it no attention because we're going to work like never before. And that's what we're doing now, and that's what we're always going to do. Please believe me that we're not taking this man lightly. Please believe me you're going to see Floyd in the best shape of his life. Please believe me that no matter what it takes, he's going to come out with the win. It could be rough. It might be easy. You never know.
Nate, I'm wondering, did you see the sparring footage that Conor McGregor had with Chris Van Heiden? Because a lot of fans saw that footage, and I think a lot of the sort of negativity towards Conor McGregor's chances came from the fact that he didn't look very good sparring against Chris. Have you seen that footage of him sparring against Chris Van Heiden? And if you have, what were your thoughts when you saw that?
I think I've seen that sparring. First of all, like once again I said, I looked at it, but to me, it's a possibility where it can be staged. We don't fall for that. We prepare for anything. Mm-hmm. Please believe me, I looked at it and I came up with my opinion that it could have been some real work and it could have been staged. I don't know. His style is a different style from Floyd. I don't know that's not Floyd. He may be more difficult than Floyd's going to be for him. Style make fights. He may give him a different look inside the screen while he's sparring him than what Floyd's going to give him. We don't take none of that like that's a different man. That man named do not start with Floyd Mayweather. So we're not worried about that. We're going to train hard. I looked at it, and after a while, I watched the whole entirety of it. But I know that it could be staged, and that don't mean anything. We're not going to take that lightly. That don't mean nothing to us. I looked at it, but it don't mean anything. We're going to train like never before. I don't think Floyd look at it because he don't do that. We ain't worried about that. We don't worry about it. We look good or when we look bad, it don't matter to us. Because they could be staged. He might get in the ring and fight somebody else. That could be staged, or it could be him. We just going to see what is going to happen on August 26th when he lined up with the best up. We'll see then.
Right. And Nate, you mentioned how this is a legacy fight for Floyd, and this is the fight that's going to get everybody, back into boxing and bring boxing to where it sort of needs to be. Is it important for Floyd to have a flawless performance in order to show the skill gap between a boxing legend like himself compared to an MMA fighter like Conor?
Well, it's important for us to win the fight. It's important for us to look as best as we can, and it's important for us to win. That's the one thing that we're more concerned of. If it be rough, if it be slacky, if it be nasty, weird looking, we don't know. But we know this, that we're going to win. And we need to bring boxing. Floyd needs to want to bring boxing back because he's a manager and a promoter. With TMT, and he wants the world he wants TMT to live on with boxing, entertainment, music, movies, and he wanted to get boxing. That stage has been on for all these years. He don't want it to fade away because I don't want boxing to die. Any true boxing fan don't want boxing to die. And it looked like boxing is taking a backseat to MMA, and Floyd want to bring it back. And why not fight McGregor? He's the best in his sport. Floyd's the best in his sport. It's both a contact sport, so Floyd's going to fight him in boxing. And let's see what it does. Let's see does it bring the right attraction to people. Let's see does it be a very interesting fight, which I think it will. And let's see if it brings boxing and MMA to a bigger and higher stage, and that'll be perfect.
Nate, there's been some controversial moments in Conor's media events. In one event, he was throwing bottles and cans, and in another one, he picked up a chair and looked like he was going to hit his opponent with it. And during the stare downs, he can get pretty intense. What do you think would happen if he tried to do some of those things with Floyd? How do you think those would play out in your opinion?
It's not going to rattle Floyd. As long as he don't put his hand on Floyd, we're not going to worry about that. He can do whatever. He was going to throw a bottle. He can throw a chair. As long as he don't hit Floyd Mayweather, we're going to worry about what happened August 26th. That's what we need to worry about. Chairs don't win fights. Bottles don't win fights. Men do. Boxing gloves and fists win fights. That's the one thing we're going to be more worried and concerned about. It's his inside the ring on the 26th of August. That's what we're worried about. We're not worried about that stuff. He can hoop and holler. He can throw a bottle. He can throw a chair. But no. He got to worry about the legal process of things that he does. If he throw a bottle, hit somebody in the hand and bust their hand, if it's Mayweather or anybody else, he got to deal with that. He got to face God with that. He got to face the law with that. We ain't worried about that. We're going to go by the book. We're going to be ready, and we're going to beat this man. And wherever it takes, we're going to fight for the win.
I mean, when the fight was announced, Conor McGregor put out a picture of him and Floyd's father, Floyd Mayweather Sr. He's been known to be one of the best trash talkers in combat sports. Do you think Floyd's ever faced anyone like him with the ability to really get in their opponent's head like a Conor McGregor?
Well, one thing about great fighters, what makes you great is this. One of these things is this: you got to be able to give it and take it. You got to be able to give the power and take the power. You got to be able to give speed. You got to be able to take the speed. You got to be able to give that shit talking. You got to be able to back it up. You got to be able to accept it. You got to be able to take the good with the bad. And that's what greatness is about. If you can swim through turmoil and come out with a win, that's what the signs of greatness. Floyd has that in his DNA. We're not worried about nothing McGregor do. Even if the fight get rough for us, we've been in a position where we had rough fights and we swim the way to a victory. The Madonna fight was kind of rough. He swam the way to a victory. You know what I'm saying? We've been through that before, and we know what it takes, and Floyd know what it takes. You know what I'm saying? It ain't how you end, it's how you start and how you finish. You know what I'm saying? It's ain't how you finish. And with Floyd, it's been undefeated because we find a way to win, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to find a way to win. That smack talking and then what he's going to do ain't going to have nothing to do when we put those gloves, and we'll abide by the rules. He'll abide by the rules with Floyd, and he come right. It's going to be a very interesting fight that we will win.
After this fight, would you like to see Floyd keep fighting, or do you believe retiring at 50-0 is best for his legacy, Nate?
Well, that's up to Floyd. We don't know how. Floyd, we got to talk to Floyd and see how he feels. I think if Floyd fights again after this fight, should be one or two more times, if that. If not, he's 40 years old. If not, he's cool. I'm cool. Because he come a long way, and he bagged every word he said. When I first met him, he was just a loud talking kid that talked so much smack, and it happened to be true. This dude really kept up to his word, because losing is not an option for Floyd. Floyd just can't accept losing anything. Cards, running, spades, basketball games. His will to win is stronger than anything I've ever met. And that's what gets Floyd over the top. And that's what when that will with Floyd, and when he knows it's over, when he says it's over, it's over. I'm going to support him when he say he's ready to do one or two more. I'm going to support him. If he don't, well, I'm cool. I'm happy. 15-0, the best who ever did it. Floyd Mayweather.
Nate, we want to talk to you about a new line of Under Armour that's coming out in just a second. But before we do, I just want to ask you, I mean, a lot of people talk about how Floyd Mayweather is old. He's 40. We've heard rumors that he's broken his hands a number of times and his body's not where it used to be. Can you confirm to us physically, where is Floyd Mayweather compared to when we saw him last? Is he still the same Floyd Mayweather that people remember?
Well, one thing about Floyd, he takes care of his body. He has hand specialists. He has a dietitian. He has a physical trainer. Floyd takes care of himself. And Floyd he's not done. Floyd was slowly preparing himself. Floyd knew he was going to do this before any of us knew about it. He would start taking care of himself, doing things, getting prepared for this. Floyd, to be great and be on top of your game like that, you don't take nothing lightly and you never lack off. And that's one thing about Floyd that we knew that, he must be 100%. He must feel good enough to do it, because if it's broke, he's not going to try to fix it. When it's over, it's over. You know what I'm saying? But right now, Floyd feels like it's not over. And Floyd maybe have one, maybe two, or this may be it. We'll know after the fight. We'll know when everything's said and done. After Floyd talks to me and he feels confident, he's not going to put himself in a messed up position, because Floyd never seen losing in his path. And if he felt that way, he wouldn't do it. So it's up to Floyd. It's up to him knowing how his hand feel, how his body feel, how his head feel. That's on him. I'm going to support him whatever he do. Like, he's ready for this fight, I'm going to support him. And if it's over, it's over. If we do one or two more, I'm going to ride with him. You know what I'm saying? Now today when I see that he's not what he used to be and he's still trying to fight, that's when a friend like me going to come and say, look, champ, it's over, baby. It's over with. But Floyd's not going to let that happen, because Floyd prepared himself well, and Floyd knows when it's over, it's over. And this could be the last time we see Floyd fight. You know what I'm saying? This could be the last time. It's up to Floyd. He's very unpredictable. We don't know. But it could be the last time.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Nate. Before we ask you about your new Under Armour line that's coming out, I just want to quickly ask you, I mean, Conor McGregor, he's famous for his predictions. His coaches have been making. Do you have an official prediction for this one?
Hold on. Let me say something. You saying the wrong thing. It's not Armour. It's ringside. It's Nate Jones' stomach pad. You know what I'm saying? It's a Nate Jones stomach pad. It's not Armour. It's by ringside. It's called Nate Jones stomach pad. Everyone knows me from working with Floyd. We shouldn't do correct body shots to the stomach. People don't give Floyd his correct acknowledgement of his body punch. Floyd's one of the best body punchers in boxing history. And with that stomach pad, with the Nate Jones stomach pad, it's just so protective, and it helps you teach how to throw real good body shots. Now back to what you were saying.
I was going to say, well, we want to find out more about these body pads, but before we move on, and I apologize for the Under Armour. I think it was a miscommunication with your assistant and us. He said Under Armour, but we want to find out more about it. Before we find out more about it, just quickly, your prediction for this fight. Do you have a prediction for this fight? Because a lot of people, Conor McGregor's coaches, Conor McGregor, they're known for their predictions. Is there a way that you see this fight ending in August?
Well, one way I can see the fight ending is Floyd outboxing him, beating the crap out of him. Another way I'm going to be concerned about is if Floyd gets to the point where he frustrates him too much, McGregor can do something crazy. That's one thing I'm worried about. And I hope it's something in the contract, in the clause, that if he does something stupid, he loses his purse. That's the only thing I'm worried about. Now, can Floyd catch him and hit him with a good shot and catch him? Of course he can. Can he catch Floyd and hit him with a good shot and hurt him? Of course I think he can. No one has ever did that. I mean, we seen Sugar Shane Mosley, we seen Chop Corley, we seen Zab Judah hit him with a good shot, and Floyd kept going. You know, this guy might be I think his punching power I think he punches a little bit harder than those guys. That's my opinion. I would be more concerned about this fight because Floyd's a little older now. He's 40 years old. McGregor has crazy weird power and he does weird shots from weird angles. I'm worried about that. But my prediction in the fight is Floyd either confusing him and frustrating him and stopping him in the later rounds, or Floyd outboxing him, or he doing something stupid and losing the fight. That's my prediction. I think the fight could be interesting. I think the fight will finish within, it may go to distance or it may get stopped late in the fight. I think when Floyd gets on with that speed and Floyd's slickness and his skills, I think it can be a problem. But at all times, you have to be worried about his power. I think if Floyd wins a good fight, I think if we don't stop in the late rounds, we win a good decision.
Wow, well, we can't wait to see what happens now. Nate, like we mentioned, the ringside stomach pads. How can people in Australia and New Zealand and all our listeners around the United States and the UK, how can they get their hands on this? When is this coming out? Where do they go to pick this up?
Well, it will be in ringside catalog. I think within the next month it will be out. You will see me working with it with Floyd Mayweather for this camp, and we're gonna. Ringside will, after this fight, after the Mayweather fight, we'll be going down to ringside, and we're going to be having it within the next month. It will be out. So ringside catalog will be out within the next month. You'll be hearing about the Nate Jones stomach pad. So everybody tune in from Australia to America. Tune in from the Mayweather-McGregor fight, and also get one of the stomach pad machines that keep Floyd in shape and keep everybody throwing good body shots. And body shots is very important in boxing. A lot of people go to the hand a lot. Boxing is very important. If you look at Floyd is 50% fighter. He goes 50% to the head and 50% to the body. Most of these guys are 90% to the head and 10% to the body. If you ain't 50-50, you're going to be predictable. That's what Floyd is. He's unpredictable because you never know where his next shot going to come from. So tune in. The Nate Jones stomach pad coming soon. Ringside catalog.
There you go, guys. You heard it from Nate himself. The fight goes down on August the 26th in the United States and the 27th here in Australia due to the time difference. Make sure to look out for the ringside catalog and pick up Nate's stomach pads. And once again, we thank you for joining us here on Submission Radio, Nate. Best of luck in the fight. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you for talking to me.
Hey, guys. This is Brian Stan. You're listening to Submission Radio.
All right, guys, our next guest from his amazing work with Severe MMA and Sherdog.com. You know him from his awesome Twitter profile and the fact that he is a friend of the program. So happy to welcome Sean Sheehan back to Submission Radio, talking about some of the fun fights that are coming up this weekend. Sean, welcome to the program.
How are you, lads? Thanks very much for having me again. Looking forward to it.
Always a pleasure when you come on, and always crazy things happen when you come on, Sean. So we're expecting nothing different this time. Now it's going to be a fun weekend. MMA fans get quite the treat. We got Bellator 180, we got UFC Oklahoma. We'll start with Bellator 180. Overall and on paper, what do you think of Bellator's second attempt at a pay-per-view? How much does this card tickle your fancy, Sean?
I think it has a bit of everything, really. It's a pretty good card. Even for me, it has the Irish interest with James Gallagher on the undercard. Mm-hmm. It has good fight between Phil Davis and Ryan Bader. The same with Michael Chandler, Brent Primus. We don't know him that much, but we know what Chandler is, and Douglas Lima against Lorenz Larkin as well. And then it has the big legend fights, we'll say, with Chael Sonnen against Wanderlei Silva and Fedor Emelianenko against Matt Mitrione. So it kind of has a bit of everything. Whatever you like, there's something for you. If you like the old guys that are still doing it, that's for you. And if you like good matchups, there certainly is a lot of them there, especially that Douglas Lima Lorenz Larkin one. I think that's a tremendous fight.
There's so many great fights, and it's just such a fun card altogether. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, Sean. I mean, a lot of buzz about this card going in there, but then the McGregor-Mayweather fight got announced, and it seemed like a lot of the buzz from the card, people stopped focusing on it, and now everybody's just talking about this McGregor-Mayweather fight. Do you think the fact there's a little bit of shift and focus for that casual fan base that may take away some of that pay-per-view buy when it does go down this weekend.
I'm not sure if it takes away the pay-per-view buy, but it's definitely taking away the buzz. Like, who's going to actually be buying this card? It's going to be mostly the MMA fans, the hardcores are going to be buying it. Now is the time you need to be starting selling it to the casuals. Like, I'm not sure if they're doing press conferences. I presume they are. Chael is always good for something in a press conference. Might get on. He has ESPN. He obviously works for ESPN, so he might get something on SportsCenter or something like that. That's when you need to do it. But I tweeted it the other day. You have to feel a bit for Bellator because this was supposed to be their big week. The UFC have the Singapore card wasn't the greatest card in the world. Next week's card is Lee against Chiesa, obviously, which we'll talk about. Not the best card in the world, not a bad card as well, but this, they have the best card of this kind of 3-week period. But when the whole McGregor-Mayweather thing, it kind of just engulfed it and took away from it. Now, it's dying down a little bit again because the announcement is made, kind of they're in camps, everything's happening now. So over the next couple of days, Bellator have a chance, but they really, really need to take it. And for Bellator, looking at it, they're a TV product really, and it's tough for them to put in that, to get that kind of juggernaut behind them like the UFC have. So we'll see what they're made of over the next few days. If they come up with these big press conferences, if there's going to be videos rolling out, we'll see different things, what they have to, to get the promotion right over the next couple of days.
Speaking of videos, and you mentioned Chael before, I'm wondering, Sean, how closely have you followed the build up to this event, specifically between Chael and Vanderlei? And I'm wondering what you thought of it. Just some of the, I guess, promotions, the presentations, the countdowns, things like that. What are your thoughts on it? Did you enjoy it?
I was actually just watching the countdown there before I came on. I haven't seen that much of it, to be honest. There's just so many cards coming up. What is there, 11 cards in 11 weeks in the UFC, and then every day it's hard to catch up on everything, but I was just catching up on there. The countdown show was pretty good. I thought there was a bit of poetic license taken in certain bits of it, talking about Chael Sonnen destroying Anderson Silva and things like that, but I thought that was generally good. How many people are actually watching those things? That that's another thing I see here. It's 207,000 views, which isn't bad, I suppose, but the back and forth between Chael and Vanderlei is something which really needs to be done kind of live. We had the press conference a few weeks ago where Vanderlei was on screen, and even that was funny, that was enough. But there, it's something that Chael making a comment on his podcast or putting up a tweet or something, that's good, but it's not, it's not going to whet your appetite like the two of them standing there together. And people love Chael when he gets on a roll, and if he gets in in a press conference or with Vanderlei on video, say if it's on, say, an ESPN or a Fox, well, probably not Fox, but somewhere like that, that's the sort of thing that they need. But as of now, there hasn't really been too much cross my path, to be honest, and that might be an issue for them, but they still have time, I suppose.
Well, I'm hoping that something big happens from a press conference, because you mentioned it, you need to have something live, and I feel like the problem with this Chael Vanderlei rivalry is we haven't really seen much interaction between them as of late, and I think we need something fresh. But also, the reason why I brought up that countdown is because I watched the start of it. And, like, we're so used to seeing Chael Sonnen in the UFC a few years ago. He was in different shape. He was, at least he was fighting guys like Anderson Silva and John Jones. And just seeing him sort of... I've always liked Chael Sonnen. I've always liked his sort of gimmick. I like what he does. I respect what he does. I've always defended it. But, I don't know, seeing him sort of recycle those same lines and still say that he's undefeated, still say that he's the highest paid, fighter in the MMA, and sort of seeing the way he looks physically is just so drastically different. I don't know. It didn't... I wouldn't say it rubbed me the wrong way, but it didn't get me like it used to. Did you have a little bit of that, Sean? I don't know. I found it a little bit more watered down than what it used to be.
Yeah, look, I think Chael he's definitely past his athletic prime anyway. There's no question about that, especially, after he got caught by USADA a couple of times, and, self-admittedly was on every drug under the sun, basically. But, and I was, well, we think as often him as getting drug tested for this, so, and he's shoving on in age as well, what has he, like, lost 4 of his last 5 fights, 1 fight in the last, 3.5 years or so, that's not going to help him either. There's a little bit of that always with Chael. I don't think it's too bad, to be honest, because we didn't have it really for a long time before the Tito Ortiz fight, And then after, obviously, he lost to Tito, there wasn't much he could do. He was doing bits and pieces of it. So, when we do hear it, it's nostalgic, maybe a little bit more than anything, him reciting those lines. But yeah, when he's on an highly edited video like that, they're gonna put in those lines. They're gonna look for that funny line that he knows and that he can recite perfectly, and they're gonna put that in. So it's not his fault in one way, but it's kind of something that's just natural. And going back to it again, if there's a press conference, something live, the weigh-in or anything like that, a soundbite, that's all you need, and something new from Chael. If he could do it, it would be huge. But yeah, I'm not a huge one for getting kind of stale on Chael. There you go. But because I'm a bit of a kind of a pro wrestling mark anyway. I love that sort of things. But
yeah.
I think most people are. I think maybe 90% of people are like that. But as I said, something new could change all of that.
God, stale on Chael. I think that's a hashtag that could possibly be used negatively against Chael Sonnen there, Sean. He'll see that and blame you for it. Nah, it's great. And let's quickly talk about this fight, though, in terms of what's going to happen. I mean, we saw him return to action against Tito Ortiz back in January, and that was not very impressive. He said after that fight that everything came back to him and that the cage rust was a big factor. Wanderlei Silva last competed in Japan against Brian Stann back in 2013. That was all the way back when GSP was still champion. What are you expecting from these age veterans when they fight? Do you favor Chael's wrestling or Wanderlei's KO power? Do you think the time off will be a huge detriment to Silva's timing?
With time off, the one thing coming back from time off is how will they look. I think Wanderlei looks in pretty good shape, but it's the timing. When he gets into the fight, Wanderlei is a guy who's known, obviously, for the big knockouts, going back through Pride, 27 knockout wins in his resume. Whereas Chael is a guy, obviously, we know it's his wrestling base. If he can, get the time of the wrestling going, it's a little bit easier than getting, the timing of the striking going and landing a clean punch to knock him out. Chael has never been a guy that's got knocked out cold, if you know what I mean. If you look back at most of his losses, they've been kind of TKO losses or submissions. Obviously, look like the Rashad Evans fight, I think he got just overwhelmed. Same with John Jones. The second Anderson Silva fight, he was kind of knocked down with the body shot after he fell and finished. And the rest of his losses were submissions. But yeah, look, if Wanderlei is to win, I think Wanderlei probably knocks him out. And if Chael is to win, it's probably going to be a lot of takedowns. Putting Wanderlei, putting his back on the ground or putting it up against the fence and taking him down there. I suppose you have to favour Chael, I think, in that situation. Wanderlei, as you said, 4 years. March 3rd, 2013 was the last time he fought. It's hard to back someone like that. Now, Chael went in against Tito and laid an egg after a long time out of the cage as well. But that could have done him a little bit of good, just as you said, get those cobwebs off, get the ring rust off. And, Wanderlei's style, he's a good style matchup really for Chael. He always had good takedown defense, but he still can be taken down, and especially 4 years out of the practice room, 4 years out of the cage. If Chael Sonnen goes in there, he still has very, very good wrestling. If he can get that off, take Wanderlei down, I think he should probably have enough.
All right. Well, we are running low on time, so we'll move on to the Fedor fight. There's, of course, Fedor Emelianenko versus Matt Mitrione as the co-main event. Are you excited to see Fedor take on, possibly his most legitimate competition in years, or will you be watching from underneath the blanket like the rest of us when we watch Fedor, potentially face embarrassment at the heavy and quick hands of Mitrione?
Yeah, after that Fabio Maldonado fight, what was it, maybe 6 months ago now at this stage, watching Fedor, it can only be done that way, especially against a guy who hits hard like Matt Mitrione. But the thing about Mitrione is he can throw fights away as well. We saw it against Ryan Nelson. We've seen it, a couple of more times as well. Early, Fedor could be very dangerous. He could take Mitrione down as well at parts of the fight. But, you'd have to favour Mitrione. I think at this stage of the career, he hits harder. He's definitely more athletic, faster, probably has a better chin as well than Fedor, although his chin has been tested as well, even in Bellator recently. But, I think I'd favour Mitrione, but I suppose you can never rule out Fedor. But after that Fabio Maldonado fight where he should have got stopped probably 2 or 3 times, it's very, very tough to pick him.
When do you think was the last time Fedor faced a test as legitimate as Mitrione? Because, you've mentioned Maldonado. He was a pretty tough challenger, but I think it's been a while since he's really faced anyone around Mitrione's caliber.
Yeah, I'm just looking at his record here. Like, if you go through him, obviously Maldonado, Jadip Singh, Pedro, he's always a lot past his prime. Then Ishii, you know, not up there. Monson, Dan Henderson, obviously a middleweight. I suppose Bigfoot Silva going back. What is it? 2011 now, and Verdum before that. Although it's not the Verdum we see today, but I suppose that was back there. You know, that was it back in Strikeforce in 2010, 2011. So what? That's 6-7 years ago. It's you know, coming in against Mitrione, who, you know, trains at a very good camp and has trained at a couple of different camps and is on kind of the cutting edge. I heard him speaking on the MMA, or he's kind of on the cutting edge of everything, improving all the time. And Fedor, I'm not sure if he is, so it's going to be very tough for him.
Yeah, it's a very stark sort of background in terms of Matt Mitrione being a former NFL player. I heard him on actually Brendan Sharp's podcast. He's talking about all this crazy scientific stuff where his coaches can track all his movements and his heart rates. Like, it's all stored in a cloud. I just don't see Fedor using that kind of technology in, you know, Starielsko. I'm wondering, Sean, do you still enjoy watching Fedor fight, or are you sort of like a lot of other people and feel that he should have, you know, maybe just enjoyed retirement and left his legacy alone? And do you kind of think it's ballsy of him to take such a stiff test this late into his career?
Well, if you're talking about Fedor, I think balls are one of the first things you think of. You know, he's always fought very, very tough guys. I know he's never fought in the UFC, but, you know, looking back through his record, the likes of Mark Hunt, Mark Coleman back in the days, obviously Nogueira as well. He's always fought really, really good guys. When Pride had arguably a better division, you know, heavyweight division than the UFC back in the day, but I personally, I'd like to have seen him retired. You know, when he got knocked out by Dan Henderson, who's a middleweight, you know, at heavyweight, he came back. He had these few fights over in Russia, and that would have been a nice way to go out. But coming back again, obviously that Maldonado fight, he came out with a win, but we all know he shouldn't have. And it's tough to see him going out with a win here again. And even if he does win or lose, we're probably going to see him back again. But we know in MMA retirements, you can't believe him. They just, nobody retires in MMA. It's just you're on the sidelines and then you come back. There's no such thing as retirement, really.
Well, when it comes to Fedor, I mean, who knows what can happen in that fight? There could be a possibility where Fedor does shock the world and beat Mitrione. If he does do that, Sean, and he does pick up that victory, what do you think it does for his career at this point?
Well, I'm not sure what it does, really. Maybe he can fight for the Bellator heavyweight title. I don't think anyone even has that at the moment. Maybe it had something to do, like in Bellator. What really is there? You know, who's he going to fight? There's big fights maybe with King Mo. I think Rampage is in the UFC now. I'm not sure what his contract situation is. Even the likes of Chael, you know, has called him out. Vanderlei. There's big fights for him, but I think everything for Fedor, win or lose from now on, is going to be, you know, those legend fights. Even if I know Matt Mitrione is not that, but I'd be surprised if he was given another really, really tough test like Matt Mitrione. You know, even I mentioned King Mo. Even if they were to give him King Mo, I think that'd be tough. But you know, you never know in the world of MMA. Like, you know, a lot of different things could happen. But Bellator, you know, they could be trying to get into Russia pretty soon. I know the UFC have been for a while, and it's very, very tough. But with Fedor on their side, that could be another thing, you know, to help them. And that, you know, that could be huge for them as well. But yeah, I don't see Fedor stopping anytime soon anyway.
If we're doing predictions, what do you think happens in this one, Sean? How do you think it plays out?
Yeah, I think Mitrione will probably win, you know, in the first round or two. Just have too much athleticism, too much power, be too quick for Fedor. If Fedor does win, I think it'll have to be early. I think he's going to have to be very, very careful. You could see, remember the Andrei Arlovsky fight where, you know, he was very, very careful with him in Affliction, I think it was. Or was it? Yeah, I think it was Affliction, and he knocked him out with that kind of big overhand. I think that's the sort of thing he'll need. If he goes kind of head first into it like he did against Maldonado, it's unlikely he's going to come out with a win. You know, Mitrione will catch him and put him down. But I wouldn't rule Fedor out now. I wouldn't say that, but I definitely favour Mitrione.
All right, well, let's move over to UFC Oklahoma City and some of the fun fights there, as we are running a bit low on time. BJ Penn takes on Dennis Siver in a much more realistic matchup compared to being, you know, thrown in there against the killer known as Yair Rodriguez in his last fight. What are you expecting from BJ this time around, Sean? You know, he's shaking off a bit of cage rust. Do you think he can show us some new tricks, or will it be another case of overpromise and underdeliver?
I'm not sure it's overpromise in this one, to be honest, and I think he might actually overdeliver. He didn't look as bad as people maybe make out against Yair Rodriguez. He definitely didn't look as bad as he did in the last Frankie Edgar fight. When he was just absolutely terrible altogether. But as you said, a more favourable matchup, Dennis Seaver. But Dennis Seaver is no mug. He's always been a good fighter, good takedown defense, good wrestling, very very good kicks, good boxer. Dennis, as I said, Dennis Seaver, he's no mug. I know he's lost two, but he wins over Charles Rosa, Manny Gamburian as well in the last couple of years. It's going to be very very tough for BJ. I think I'm picking Dennis Seaver in this one, but it's one of those as well. Dennis Seaver's obviously past his prime, a little bit closer to his prime than BJ's, but BJ's well past his prime. And you're talking about Fedor a minute ago. It kind of, whether you want to see him fight or not, and it's a borderline. But BJ Penn, I think 100%, I don't want to see him fight. He shouldn't be fighting. He's taken some terrible beatings over the last few years, like against Nick Diaz and like against Rory McDonald, and that's unlikely to happen against Dennis Seaver, but it could. As I said, Dennis Seaver is no bad fighter, and if it happens to him, I wouldn't be ever comfortable with someone matchmaking him again.
Mm-hmm. It's like the MMA Legends weekend. All the big legends from back in the day are on this weekend, and I feel like it's a bit tough because so much, a lot of fans from back in the day are going to be watching this weekend. I feel like a lot of hearts are going to be broken if these legends go through a tough time this weekend. Let's talk about Johnny Hendricks. I mean, he takes on Tim Boetsch in the first kind of real legitimate middleweight bout that he's going to be having in the UFC. How do you see this one playing out? And what do you think a win would say about Hendricks' chances of climbing the middleweight ladder and possibly even, I don't know, one day being a contender in the division?
Yeah, I think that's unlikely, to be honest. I think the biggest thing with Hendricks going up to middleweight, and obviously he fought Hector Lombard there in his last fight, but Hector's kind of a welterweight / middleweight as well, same sort of size. I think the big thing with Johnny Hendricks is the size disadvantage that he's going to have, and against Tim Boetsch, that's kind of escalated. Obviously Tim Boetsch is a former light heavyweight. He's a big middleweight, maybe not in height, but in size and in strength. And Johnny Hendricks at welterweight, a lot of what got him to the top was obviously his power, being able to knock people out, his strength and his wrestling. That's going to be tough, to utilize, especially against guys like Tim Boetsch. It's going to be tough to take him down. It's going to be tough. Tim Boetsch is going to have a little bit of a reach advantage probably as well. Might be stronger than Johnny Hendricks. I think Johnny Hendricks is definitely a more skilled fighter than Tim Boetsch, but size is a huge thing in MMA, and I think going forward, even if he beats Tim Boetsch, I think that's, especially against better fighters, the likes of Jacare or Yoel Romero or Chris Weidman or Luke Rockhold, it's going to be very, very tough for Johnny Hendricks. I'd probably favour him to beat Tim Boetsch. I think Boetsch is a little bit past his prime now at the moment. Again, I know Hendricks hasn't been great over the last while, but I'd fancy Hendricks in that one.
It'll be interesting to see how he does. Whenever I think of Johnny Hendricks in middleweight, I always think of Luke Rockhold and just the huge size difference and reach that would be there. But I like that the UFC's kind of bringing him up slowly in the division. There's not really many other options. Before we let you go, obviously, finally, we have to talk about Michael Chiesa. He faces Kevin Lee in a nobody say anything about Chiesa's mother match. I knew you'd like that gimmick, Sean. This is sort of flying under the radar until their press conference clash that, pretty much stole the show. How excited are you for this one, especially, seeing as all jokes aside, these are two very legitimate lightweights?
Yeah, they're two very good, very, very good fighters. I was watching a bit of tape on both of them today. I think the biggest thing in this is looking back at Chiesa's record and looking at him in his last fight against Beneil Dariush, who for my mind is one of the best lightweights in the company. A similar enough type of fighter to Kevin Lee. Good wrestling, good striking, good athleticism, and I think he's better than Kevin Lee everywhere. But looking at that fight as well, Chiesa won it, but Dariush was winning, up until the point that Chiesa kind of turned it around. So that's Kevin Lee will, he can take heart from that fight, but he can also be a little bit worried because of how dangerous Chiesa is. Now, I think Chiesa is, I think they're around the same size, but he uses his size a little bit better. Kevin Lee's the kind of guy who likes to shoulder roll, use his jab, and everything he does really is to get inside and time takedowns. That's probably his best attribute, of time and takedowns. Once he gets on top, he's very dangerous. But Chiesa on the floor, how many rear naked choke wins is he? A lot of wins, 10 wins out of 14 wins by submission. If Kevin Lee's best way to win the fight is on the ground, Michael Chiesa's best way to win the fight is on the ground for me. That makes this a very, very exciting fight. If it hits the floor, it could be chaos. Michael Chiesa gets on the back, he's choking Kevin Lee out. Kevin Lee, keeps on top and is, he's really, really good with top control. If he can keep there, he'll probably win a decision against Michael Chiesa over 5 rounds.
It's a nice position to be in as well, the main event. And I feel like, a new star is going to be born, whoever kind of wins this. Not that they're not stars already, but I think a lot of people are really taking notice of this matchup here. What do you think a win here does? Does it get one of the gentlemen up to the reach of contendership in the division, in your opinion?
I think it definitely gets them around there anyway. Kevin Lee he's been calling out Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's been talking, a whole lot of crap. Yeah. That press conference did him very well, got their names out there. For Lee, I think, if you look at his last few records, obviously Jake Matthews, who you guys know very well, very good fighter, and Francisco Trinaldo, I think as well, he's beaten in his last couple. Not the biggest names in the world compared, if you look to Chiesa, obviously, who has beaten, as I mentioned, Benil Dariush, Jim Miller, Mitch Clark. Those are better wins, name value wise and rankings wise. If Chiesa can get Lee on his record as well, with the lightweight division where it is at the moment, where you have the likes of, obviously he's probably not going to fight Nate Diaz, but Tony Ferguson, Khabib Nurmagomedov, all on the sidelines, all waiting for people. If those two lads don't fight each other, they'll need someone to fight. And I think Michael Chiesa could put himself in prime position to do that. And so could Kevin Lee, because as I mentioned, that history with Khabib Nurmagomedov, that could be a good fight for Khabib, something that he'd like to take. That'd be, pretty favourable matchup for him as well. So, yeah, a win here could be big for either of them in that division. That's, obviously McGregor's at the top and he's away doing extracurricular activities at the moment. So, yeah, it definitely could.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a crazy weekend of fights. So probably the most difficult question of all, Sean. I mean, all these legends fighting. You got Vanderlei, Chael, BJ Penn. You got youngsters like Lee and Chiesa there, Johnny Hendricks, Tim Bosch. If you had to pick one fight that you're most excited about out of all the fights coming this weekend, which is the fight that stands out to you the most?
I would say Douglas Lima against Lorenz Arkin. I think that's a really, really good fight. Lorenz Arkin can be a really great fighter at times, but he can be a little bit hesitant as well, and over 5 rounds might be that. But I have to mention as well James Gallagher against Shinzo Machida. Obviously James fighting out of Ireland, fighting out of SPG. That's a huge fight for him. he's one of the next big stars coming from SPG, and got in there against Shinzo Machida. People compare James a lot to Conor McGregor, but I think a Gunnar Nelson comparison is actually better. Very, very good takedowns, grappling, jiu-jitsu, and obviously Shinzo, we all know the Machida's, the karate background. If that stays on the feet, it'll be very interesting. If James can take him down, he could choke him out. It could be another big wing. So I'm really looking forward to that one. It's kind of the old school grappler against striker, with the other guy having good grappling, the other guy having good striking as well. So I'm really looking forward to that one. That'd be my pick, I'd say.
Well, it's going to be an exciting weekend of fights. Sean, thank you so much for jumping on the program. Guys, make sure to follow Sean at Sean Sheehan, BA on Twitter, of course, the man to follow for all your coverage. And also when the fights are running live, always a smart comment going out from Sean's Twitter. Stale Chael, maybe that's something.
Hashtag stale
Chael. Who knows what's going to happen, but you heard it here first on Submission Radio. Sean, again, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me, lads. Really appreciate it.
What's up, everybody? This is Chris Lieben, and you're listening to Submission Radio. They're fucking rad.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about the fight, one of the biggest fights possibly that's ever going to happen in fight history. We thought about it. Me and Casper sat down and we thought, who is the man that we're going to invite to talk about this? Who is the man who is going to vibe and discuss how we really feel about what could be one of the most historic moments in combat history? And while we thought about it, only one name came to mind. We thought about buffets. We thought about turkey skin. We thought about a man that has delivered time and time again on Submission Radio, back to back to back to back. There's only one man who we thought of, and that is, of course, Damon Martin from Fox Sports. Of course, you know his amazing work. He joins us back here on the program. Damon, welcome to Submission Radio.
With that kind of an intro, you talk about the biggest fight ever. That's like the best intro I've ever had. So I don't know if I can top that by what I'm about to say over the next, however long we're going to talk.
Look, Damon, stakes are higher now. Things have changed. I'm not going to lie about it. So there's a lot to discuss. And the first thing I want to kick things off with, of course, the historic fight, Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor. This fight is now official. It's going down in August. People can put it in their diaries. Everybody's been obsessing about the fact and how quickly it came together and if people are surprised that it happened. But my first question to you, Damon, is now that it's made official, are you a fan of this fight happening?
Yeah, I'm a fan of it happening, because listen, at the end of the day, we want to talk about sport and we want to talk about the best fights possible. And I agree with all of that. But at the same time, there is still an entertainment value to all of this. There is a show to all of this. There's a spectacle to all of this. And as much as all of us want to see great fights, and we all do want to see great fights, that's why we're here. But we also want to see a great show, and there's no better showman in our sport than Conor McGregor. So there is an interesting factor to this fight. There is an intriguing factor to this fight, and there is a show factor to this fight that we've never seen before, ever in the history of sports, much less boxing or mixed martial arts. Never has this happened in any sport. So, yeah, I'm on board with the fight. It's going to be interesting. I mean, listen, I'm just as excited for the press conferences right now as I am the fight itself, but 2 hours after this fight was booked, I already booked my travel to Las Vegas. I had my hotel done. I booked everything immediately because I know it's going to be a circus. And, there's something intriguing about a circus. Everyone likes the circus. So, let's go. Let's just do it.
I love it. I love how you're able to just buy flights and accommodations straight away. I wish flying from Australia to Vegas wasn't so expensive so we could do that as well. In terms of the fight, there are definitely things that I like about it. Look, it's not so much the fight on 26th of August that I'm interested in. I think that the bigger fight has already been fought, and what happens on August 26th is really going to be a culmination of that. And I think the big fight was Conor McGregor versus the UFC, something that's been brewing for a very, very long time. People have been talking about the power struggle between Conor McGregor, between Dana White, between the Fertittas. And it's always come back to Conor McGregor. What are his limits? What is his ceiling? Is he getting too big for his boots? Is he going to put the UFC in some kind of uncomfortable position? People are talking about, is he going to co-promote with the UFC? Is he going to be a part owner? All these kinds of things. After UFC 205, when he held both belts, people were saying, gee, what are his limits now? What is he going to be able to accomplish? Is he going to take over the UFC? And in a time of unrest, in a time of fighters being unhappy with the conditions, with the respect, with their treatment, with their pay, with all these things, I love seeing that one guy has come out on top, and that is Conor McGregor. He single-handedly, he was on welfare a matter of years ago, and a few years later, he single-handedly enticed one of the highest-paid, most famous athletes in the world, in Floyd Mayweather, to want to do business with him, to want to put together a fight that is completely unnatural from his natural field, which is mixed martial arts. They're going to do a boxing match, and hearing that a year or 2 years ago, you would think that it's nonsense. The UFC would never allow that. People started talking about the Ali Act and maybe if Conor McGregor did this or that. And here he is. He twisted the UFC's arm. He bent them over. He spanked them. This is one of the best negotiations I've ever seen. Easily the best negotiation from a fighter as far as a fighter going up against the UFC. He went up against them, and he won. There was no lawsuit, no legal troubles. The UFC realized this is what they have to do, and they did it. And Leonard Ellaby and Dana White are selling us this whole spiel about how, this is the fight that the fans wanted. The fans didn't want the fight. It's not that the fans wanted it. The fans wanted to know whether it was happening or not. And now they're going with that narrative. Now they know that it's happening, and it's happening purely because Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather put the UFC in a position where it would have been stupid to do anything but make this fight. So, I don't think it's going to really add anything to Floyd Mayweather's accomplishments. He's 49-0 against the best boxers in the world. What is beating Conor McGregor going to do for him? This is a real story about Conor McGregor going up against the UFC and winning. So I like it in that sense. What do you think, Dennis?
Yeah. Look, a lot of people are out there and they're talking about how this is a travesty and how it's going to be a terrible fight and why would anybody tune in? But I'm actually really excited for this because, first of all the stories that you said leading into it, Casper, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts in a sec, Damon. They're very interesting to me as well. To me, the other story here is Floyd Mayweather, pay-per-view king. He now has an opportunity to fight another guy who a lot of people believe took the throne away from him and became the new pay-per-view king. So now you got him going back into relevance, I guess a lot of people could say he wasn't any longer relevant anymore in the game. People sort of thought the game passed him by a little bit and sort of moved on to Conor McGregor. Here is his chance to beat Conor McGregor. And if he does beat Conor McGregor, which, I mean, the chances are very, very high, he has something that he can say. Not only is it a 50-0 thing, which I guarantee to you, 50-0 means a lot to him. I mean, he's 49-0, even though it's going to be a win over Conor McGregor. To him, being 50-0, it's going to be a huge thing for him. He's going to be talking about that till the cows come home after the fight if it does happen. But the other thing to him would be, I took on the pay-per-view king at 40 years old, and I was able to beat him, and I was able to stay relevant and come back into the spotlight and have the hottest, biggest fight out there. And as a promoter, as someone who has Mayweather Promotions, that is a big thing for him. The reason why Oscar De La Hoya and a lot of these guys are upset about the sport, about this fight happening, you know, partly a lot of people say it's bad for boxing. I don't agree. I actually think it's good for boxing because a lot of people are interested in boxing, and there's some hot fights happening this year. I think the more people watch boxing, the undercard, the other fighters on there take notice of boxing, actually get into the whole process of watching boxing. It's good for boxing in general because a lot of people weren't doing that. But apart from that, I mean, a lot of those promoters are just upset because they don't have the relevant fight right now. Mayweather Promotions or Floyd Mayweather Showtime, they have the relevant fight right now. This is the fight that everybody's talking about. So you got a guy that went from this Pacquiao fight, he was super relevant, huge fight, and then you kind of thought, well, where are you going to go from that? No one really in boxing for him to fight where everybody's going to tune in. We all saw, you know, Manny Pacquiao, he's fighting in Brisbane against Jeff Horn. No one is even talking about that fight. So for him to stay in relevance, I think that's a big story going in there, and also being able to add that to his legacy, fighting Conor McGregor. But Damon, I'm just curious, what do you think it really is on the line here? Because there's a lot of money. Both men are going to come out of this super wealthy. So money aside, what is at stake here for Conor McGregor? What is at stake here for Floyd Mayweather if we're really looking at what's going to happen once this fight is done in August?
Well, for Floyd Mayweather, you already mentioned it. I mean, it's a chance to go 50-0 to tie Rocky Marciano's record, you know, for the undefeated record in boxing, and, you know, become, you know, that's a mark. I mean, 50-0, it's incredible. It's a ridiculous mark. And yes, you know, there will be some that will try to take that away from him by saying he beat 0-0, you know, mixed martial artists to do it. But it's still, I mean, listen, there's no fight in boxing that would get Mayweather what he's going to get out of this fight. And maybe that's also because there's less danger in theory in this fight than fighting a Triple G or a Canelo rematch or any of those kind of fights. But at the end of the day, he could fight Canelo 10 more times and it wouldn't make as much money as this one. He could fight, Triple G, and it wouldn't make anywhere near what this one's going to make. So there is that kind of twofold element to this. He gets his 50th win, and he gets a lot of money out of it. For Conor McGregor, I think it actually does more for Conor McGregor because it puts him on an even higher pedestal in terms of sports and entertainment because he's already a star. I mean, we're at the point now where celebrities name drop Conor McGregor left and right. I mean, Ben Affleck, he based his Batman fighting on Conor McGregor in the UFC. I mean, that's ridiculous. Think about that. To really reach that level, you know what I mean? Like, when you reach that kind of like pop culture relevance, you know what I mean? Because in boxing and mixed martial arts for years, it was Muhammad Ali was the guy. If you talked about boxing, it was Muhammad Ali. And then it was Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was the guy. If you were talking about boxing, you were talking about Mike Tyson. Things like that. Right now, it's Conor McGregor, but he's going to take his relevance to a whole other level by fighting Floyd Mayweather. And also, if he can find a way to beat Floyd Mayweather, the amount of stardom he's going to have after that is ridiculous. And even on the flip side, if he just survives, if he goes 12 rounds with arguably the greatest boxer of all time, or at least one of the greatest boxers of all time, that's a huge feather in his cap. He can say, I just stepped in my first day in this sport, and I went 12 rounds with one of the best ever. Now let me go back and beat up some of these MMA bums who have no business in the ring with me. All he really has to say after the fight, if he loses, is say, okay, Floyd, now you'll come fight me in the octagon and see how long you last. I mean, I guarantee you that's the kind of stuff he'll say. So this is the only way it goes wrong for Conor McGregor is if he loses so badly inside like the first 4 rounds. Outside of that, as long as he survives and he doesn't get knocked out, it's a win-win for him.
But I was going to say, and to that point, even if he does go in there, let's say he gets destroyed, even if he gets knocked out in the first round, which I don't think would happen, but let's say it does, do you think Conor McGregor's already won? I mean, you mentioned all these points about him being a pop culture icon and all these kinds of things, but if really the aim of the game, a lot of people want to go in there and they want to win belts and claim titles, And really, I think a lot of that reason is so that once you win the belt and you get the title, you get the power, and then you get the money that comes with all that. Well, Conor's already conquered that. He's already got the belts. He's already proven himself. You know, they weren't, you know, it's not like he went from fighting undercard prelim UFC fighters to all of a sudden this position. You know, he won the featherweight belt, he won the lightweight belt, and sure, he never defended either belt, but now he's moved on to bigger and better things, and regardless, he's going to make so much money that he's never going to have to work a day in a life, even if he does get knocked out in the first round. Do you think we're all kind of missing the point? We're all kind of discussing, you know, does he have a shot? And no, he has absolutely zero chance. He's going to get embarrassed. But is it really even his goal? Like, I'm sure he's going in there, you know, I'm sure he doesn't want to go in there and lay an egg. I'm sure he's going to go in there and give it everything he's got. But was that really ever the point, whether he beats Mayweather or not? Was it really more about the money? And if that's the case, has he already won and won more than most fighters ever will?
Yeah, I mean, he has. Think about it. I mean, he's about to walk away with it. From what I talked to Kevin Iole from Yahoo Sports last week, because, you know, he's kind of more of a boxing guy than myself. Now, I follow boxing pretty closely, but not as much time as he spent. And I said, just kind of give me an idea. What do you think Conor will make off this fight? And he told me, you know, based on a percentage split kind of similar to what Pacquiao had, he would guess around 125 million. Wow. He's won. I don't care what happens. He makes 125 million. He won. Trust me. For 125 million, I'll go get knocked out. Anthony Joshua could come over to my house, punch me in the face right now, and I'll take $125 million for it. I don't care. So you're right. He's absolutely won this already.
Can I quickly bring something else into the fold that I haven't heard anybody really talk about? All right, let's say, because, you know, his chances of winning are really, really low, and I recognize that. But let's say somehow he is able to win this fight. Is he fighting for a chance to rematch Floyd Mayweather? Because if he does beat Floyd, if he beats Floyd somehow in this fight, and again, it's super unlikely, Floyd will probably win. But if he does beat Floyd here, I think it's very, very likely Floyd does a rematch to try and get that one back. What do you guys think?
100%. 100%. I actually said that to someone else. They said, what does Conor do if he wins? They said he walks back in there and makes 200 and some odd million off of Floyd Mayweather in the rematch. Because if he beats Floyd Mayweather, and again, I know we all say this seems unlikely and, you know, chances are it won't happen. But if he does, he is now the A side. He is now the guy demanding to Floyd, oh, by the way, now you're going to make 40%. And, you know, you're the guy that's going to be second on the pay-per-view. And you're going to come to the UFC and we're going to promote this fight. And you're going to give me the lion's share of the profits or whatever. His demands have to be met, because if he beats Floyd Mayweather, every possible card is in his corner and Floyd will have to cater to him. And then at that point, if he gives him the rematch, and they fight again, he's going to make, I mean, at that point, I said this earlier and I mean it. I say this. If the fight ends up being one of the biggest of all time, or the biggest of all time, if they break the Pacquiao record and it gets 4.7 or maybe 4.9 million or 5 million pay-per-view buys, and let's just say hypothetically Conor McGregor beats him, the rematch will be worth 6 million pay-per-views. And I'm not even kidding. It will blow that out of the water, because there's still going to be an element of fans right now who are saying, he can't do it. He can't really beat him, you know what I mean? And there's going to be a few people who will stay out of the spotlight and refuse to buy the show. But I guarantee if Conor McGregor beats him, if he knocks out Floyd Mayweather, every single person on earth that can afford that $100 pay-per-view will plunk down to watch it.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be like the Nate Diaz-Conor McGregor rematch, only times a million. But on that note, like, I'm honestly not expecting a whole lot from this fight. I don't want to be a downer, but I think a lot of people will end up buying it, obviously. But in terms of how many pay-per-views it'll get, will it break the Pacquiao-Mayweather record? There's a lot of theories. On one hand, you look at Mayweather being the pay-per-view king, and then what Conor McGregor has become. You look at two sports, the sport of boxing and the sport of MMA, sort of co-promoting in a sense and bringing both their fan bases. In theory, you would think it's going to be the biggest pay-per-view of all time. But then you also think about how many, like you mentioned, Damon, the amount of boxing fans, the amount of purists, and even MMA fans who really begrudge this fight. You've got boxers, well-known boxers like De La Hoya coming out and basically encouraging people to boycott this fight. And I think there are a lot of people who won't buy it because they just see, look, this isn't going to be a real contest. There's nothing competitive about it. Whereas with Mayweather-Pacquiao, there wasn't anybody who really thought that. There wasn't anybody who thought, oh, it's going to go this way or it's going to one way. Everybody was curious about it, and it did bring a lot of MMA fans in there. So what do you guys think as far as how well it does in the pay-per-view? I'm curious what you think, Damon.
Well, I think it's going to break the record, and here's the thing. I hear what you're saying, and I hear what the fans are saying. I've had a lot of people hit me up on Twitter and say, I'm not buying this. This is a joke. This is a joke. But guess what's going to happen is you get closer and closer and closer to the fight. The press conferences start happening. The face-offs start happening. The talk starts happening. The weigh-ins happen. And then that Saturday night comes around, and you're going on Twitter, and you're going on Facebook, and you're talking to your friends, and everyone is talking about, I'm going to watch Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. I'm going to the bar to watch Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. I'm going to do this, and it's going to surround that. They don't want to be left out. What is this world that we live in now? We live in a world where we want to be part of a conversation. We want to be part of what's happening, right? What is going to be happening on that date in August? And it's that. Everyone's going to be talking about that moment. It's just like when a movie comes out, like when a big movie comes out, or for instance, award shows, you know what I mean? When there's the Oscars or the Emmys, all these people, I hate award shows. They're so dumb. But then when everyone starts tweeting about it and talking about it, everyone wants to join in the conversation. It's the same thing here, except on a steroid-like level, because everyone is going to be watching this and you don't want to be left out. You don't want to be the guy who said, I hate this fight. It's a joke. And then Conor McGregor knocks out Floyd Mayweather. You missed it. You know what I mean? You're catching pictures and trying to find a GIF highlight of what happened. You want to watch it. So that's why I think it will break the record, because that curiosity factor is still going to draw in enough people to where they want to see it. And they may be complaining right now, and they may be making all the excuses in the world of why they're not going to watch. But at the end of the day, they don't want to be left out in the cold when it happens to either say, see, I was right. Floyd Mayweather outclassed him. It was a joke. This fight shouldn't have happened. I was right all along. Or they want to be the person who said, see, Conor McGregor shocked the world. He went out there and beat this boxing guy. He had no business in there with him. You know, that kind of stuff. They want to be part of that conversation.
100%, Damon. And just on that as well, a couple of more points there. I mean, they're building this undercard to, we don't know what the fights are going to be just yet, but it's going to be a very, very solid undercard with some really, really good boxers. So I think if you're a hardcore boxing fan, this is a card that you're going to want to watch. There's going to be a lot of great fights on there. It's like the equivalent of, a UFC 205 or something like that, where there's a bunch of great fights. Maybe the main event isn't really tickling your fancy, but you don't want to miss out on the spectacle. This is going to be a crazy event full of great fights, great big fights. Then the other thing that comes with it is, people, a lot of casual fans, the ones that I've been speaking to, and I've noticed as well online, there's been some posts about this. A lot of people are putting money on Conor McGregor. A lot of the casual fans that don't know much about boxing and sort of know a little bit more about MMA, a lot of them are going around talking about how Conor McGregor is going to do this, and it is because they're not very familiar with Floyd Mayweather. A lot of people aren't huge fans of Mayweather's fights. He's done really well pay-per-view wise, but he's kind of been a natural heel for a really, really long time. A lot of people haven't been the biggest fans of the way that he fights. To them, this is almost like a WWE match where Conor McGregor is kind of like a face and Mayweather's kind of like a heel, and they want to see Conor McGregor go in there and destroy him. And a lot of people believe that he can. A lot of the casual people that don't really quite understand how it's going to go believe that McGregor has the ability to go in there and knock him out. But the question I have for you, Casper, is has the Mayweather promotions and have Showtime made a mistake here by not going with a theme and having more MMA versus boxing matches, or were they smart to just stick to a pure boxing card to sort of lure in those hardcore fans that would be put off by the main event?
No, I don't think that anybody's going to be lured in by this undercard. I think it's going to be a very, very bare bones undercard, like pretty much all boxing undercards, and it's going to be filled with Mayweather fighters just so that they can get a little bit more extra exposure. It doesn't need an MMA versus boxing theme throughout the entire card for this to be a success. It's already going to be a success. I mean, we're talking here about it doing potentially more than 4 million pay-per-view buys. What would putting MMA fighters on this card do for those numbers? What, maybe add another 10,000 pay-per-view buys? No point. And it would be a huge detriment to the UFC because, you've got guys like Stipe Miocic, Cub Swanson talking about wanting to fight boxers on this card. The UFC needs those guys. They need a Stipe Miocic headlining pay-per-views. They need their UFC heavyweight champion. They need Cub Swanson looking good so that hopefully in the next 1 or 2 fights, he can be potentially fighting for the featherweight belt. If they go out here, get embarrassed potentially, which is a very real possibility, lose or get knocked out, and for what? It does nothing for the UFC. It's outside of UFC programming. It makes them look bad, and it takes them out of their schedule as well. If they go out and they get knocked out, that means they have to be on the sidelines. That means they have to get a brief suspension from the commission. That means they can't train, and that means they can't be ready for potential fights in the UFC. I mean, people are already complaining about watered-down cards in the UFC. They don't need to lose any more star power. Furthermore, These guys aren't Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is going to be a star regardless, win or lose. He's already a star. Guys like Cub Swanson, guys like Stipe Miocic, they don't have that high profile where if they go out and get knocked out, people will immediately forgive it. And I don't think this undercard is going to be any. You mentioned UFC 205. I don't think it's going to be anything like UFC 205. I think it's going to be incredibly bare bones. UFC 205 and UFC 200 last year were incredibly stacked cards from top to bottom. And guess what? They didn't outdraw cards like UFC 202 and UFC 196, which weren't as stacked. And the reason is because the rivalries at UFC 202 and 196 were driving those pay-per-view buys. Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz. You have likely an even bigger rivalry here with Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. So there's no way they're going to stack the undercard in any way.
Yeah, I mean, the undercard, boxing undercards have traditionally just been, for the most part, kind of garbage compared to the main event. I mean, people pay for boxing to see that main event. I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, they had Vasyl Lomachenko on the Pacquiao-Mayweather card, and looking back, you're like, wow, that's a pretty good fight. But at that point, Lomachenko wasn't the Lomachenko that he is today, to where he's one of the kind of up-and-coming real stars of boxing and has so much respect at the time. He was still kind of a bit of an unknown, at least. So they're going to fill it with a lot of Mayweather promotion guys that, Floyd wants to build up. But at the end of the day, no one's buying this card for the undercard. This isn't MMA where, they'll fill up an undercard with, 5 or 6 quality fights where if the main event isn't great, you still feel justified in buying the card. This is all about McGregor and Mayweather. This is all about that. This is the Super Bowl. This is what people tuned in for. They didn't, as much as people say, I like the commercials and I like the halftime show, ultimately it's about the game. It's about what's happening in the Super Bowl. And yes, you will get those rare people who will say, man, I really want to see this undercard, or I'm really looking forward to everything else. But ultimately it comes down to the main event. So it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not surprised. I don't blame them for not doing MMA boxing crossovers, because it just takes away the attention from the main event, because then people are going to say, oh man, this is such a unique card. No one cares about the card. Everyone cares about Mayweather and McGregor. And ultimately that's what's going to bring in people's money. And that's what people are going to invest their $100 in, or $90,000 for a ticket. That's what they're going to see, is McGregor and Mayweather.
All right, well, let's talk about the build-up to this fight, because I almost feel like these press conferences and whatever they choose to do is going to be so important to the fight breaking that record, because that first time that Mayweather and McGregor have their stare down and have their press conference is really going to set a precedent of what we can kind of expect in the trash talk department leading into this fight. Now, the fight is happening quite soon. Both guys are training. From what I understand from listening to the MMA Hour, Owen Roddy and the team, they're going up to America in a couple of weeks and going to be training out of there. Damon, what kind of promotion do you think needs to happen to really push that fight over that record? Some people are talking about world tours. I think that's pretty unlikely at this stage with the fight being so soon. But what would you like to see happen in terms of promotion for this fight? And also, so far, Mayweather's been pretty respectful towards Conor McGregor. Do you expect him to change his stance, or do you expect him to sort of stay along the same line as we've seen him so far?
Well, as much as people are saying that the fight itself will be a mismatch, the verbal warfare would be a mismatch, because Conor McGregor will dice up and slice up Floyd Mayweather 10 times over when it comes to the verbal warfare. And everyone's going to say, well, Floyd's a good trash talker, and he picked apart Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar De La Hoya ain't Conor McGregor, okay? Conor McGregor. And so I think, they're going to do a press conference initially, from what I've heard, within the next week to 2 weeks, they want to put together a press conference. I don't think they can do a world tour, because simply said, there's only 2 months to go until the fight. And I think flying everyone to Ireland and flying them back to Vegas and all this stuff is a lot. But what I think they could do is potentially do like a three city tour, do Vegas, New York, and LA, or Vegas, New York and Chicago, or something like that, and promote the fight over about a 2-week span and do something like that. Because the more they promote this fight in that realm of letting Conor go after Floyd, the bigger this pay-per-view is going to grow. Because for all the naysayers who are saying they're not going to buy this fight, they're saying they're not going to buy it because they don't believe Conor McGregor has a realistic shot of beating Floyd Mayweather. But Conor McGregor has an innate ability to make you believe in him by the things he says, by the things he does. And so him going out there, and I'm telling you right now, everything is going to be fair game. Floyd Mayweather's domestic violence history, the whole reading thing, he's going to go after him on a personal level, and it's going to get ugly. And I think that also may play a part in Conor McGregor's chance to win this fight, because his mental warfare is unlike anything we've seen in this sport. The only person he's never really gotten to has been Nate Diaz. Well, Floyd Mayweather's not Nate Diaz, and I think if there's a chance he can get into his head and make Floyd fight outside of himself, that's what this is about. So I think they need to do 2 or 3, maybe even 4 press conferences between now and August 26th and really build this thing up. Do one immediately, and then maybe do another one in New York or LA, and then do one more on Fight Week, of course, to really build this thing up, because Conor going after Floyd the way Conor will is only going to watch more and more pay-per-views come in, because as much as you may not believe he has a chance, him going out there and just absolutely demolishing Floyd Mayweather with his verbal assault is going to make a lot of people believe he can do it.
And I think it'd be a great thing to see, because if you do have these press conferences spaced out between a few days or maybe a week apart each, you're going to, everybody's going to tune into the first one. They're going to see the verbal warfare. Then if, for example, Mayweather gets wrecked by Conor McGregor, they're going to say, oh, I wonder what's going to happen in the next press conference. Mayweather and his team probably going to talk about, how can we get back at Conor McGregor and things like that. And it's going to escalate and escalate. But it kind of almost reminds me of UFC 202, where there wasn't really any buzz about it. Nobody was really caring until we had that press conference where the infamous bottle throwing incident, and then all of a sudden it became a light, and then it became the biggest UFC pay-per-view of all time. So I almost feel like this 3-city tour would be fantastic. It'd be ideal, but between the followers on Conor McGregor's Instagram and Twitter, and then Floyd Mayweather's, anything these guys say, anything these guys tweet is going to be news anyway. And the fact that this fight has already essentially been promoted by us, the media, and the fans, and all the theorists for the last almost year, it's like a big pile of gasoline. It's just waiting for a match to light up. I'm curious what you guys think, as far as we'll see what kind of press conferences and things we do. But what about the angle that this fight's been promoted on, specifically by Mayweather Promotions? Because thus far it's been super respectful, and it's almost unnerving. It's almost awkward how complimentary everybody has been of Conor McGregor. It's almost like we're getting the hard sell. We had Nate Jones speaking before, and you would think if you're in Mayweather's camp, of course you're going to take this seriously. Of course you're going to train hard for this fight. But that this is a very, very lopsided fight. But everybody is really selling Conor McGregor on having this massive chance, and saying that he's such a tough opponent, and we're worried about his power. And a lot of people buying into it. And a lot of people saying, well, Conor McGregor's got that power. And you think, well, hey, Canelo had power, Cotto had power, De La Hoya had power, and neither one of them could, connect hard enough or often enough to really hurt Floyd. What do you think about the way that this fight's been sort of promoted by Ellaby and Mayweather themselves?
I actually think, this is going to be a situation where they're going to switch up their strategy. That first press conference, because I know Conor McGregor, he's in a different mind of his own. We saw what he did when he tweeted out the fight was out. He put out that poster of him and Floyd's dad. I think he's on the right track. He knows he's going to be trash talking. He knows he's going to be bringing it at these press conferences. Until that first press conference happens, I don't think Floyd or his team are going to be doing much trash talking towards Conor. I think they're of that mindset that, let's make it seem like this kid's got a chance. Let's make it seem like we're taking him seriously. Let's make it seem like he's dangerous, because they think that's the best way to promote the fight, to kind of get all those boxing purists to buy. But I think after that first press conference, with all the trash that Conor McGregor throws at him, I think, Mayweather's going to have no choice but to throw trash back at him and realize, okay, this is going to be the way the fight's going to be sold. We don't have to sell people on the fact that McGregor's got a shot here at landing punches, or, that he's got a powerful left hand that could possibly knock me out. We don't need to do that. We can just go out there. We can do our thing. He can try and destroy me, and I'll try my best to go back at him. I mean, he understands that. We all saw he's worked with the WWE a number of times before. He's not the best trash talker, but I think once he gets it slung at him, there's no way he's going to sit there and just sort of take it and be respectful towards him. I mean, Damon, what's your stance on this? Do you actually think there's a chance the Mayweather team somehow stays respectful under fire from Conor McGregor through these press conferences?
Well, I think what we're more likely to see is in the beginning, like what Casper said. I think we're going to see a little bit of that in the beginning, because they want to sell it that he actually has a chance, to win this fight. They want to sell it like he did against Andre Berto, who I have nothing but respect for him, but he really had no business being in the ring with Floyd Mayweather after he beat Manny Pacquiao. I mean, that was as much of a cakewalk as you could hand a boxer at that point as you could get. Andre Berto's a good mid-level guy, but he's definitely not on the level of a Manny Pacquiao or a Canelo or any of those guys. And Floyd did his best to build him up and say, this guy's a tough guy. He's this, he's that. And you know, people saw right through it and basically, you know, didn't end up buying the pay-per-view, even though it was Floyd's last fight. So I think in the beginning he will go that route. He will say Conor's a tough guy, he's a knockout artist, and he's going to say all the right things. And then Conor's going to say, did you actually come up with that, or did someone have to tell you that, because I know you can't read that off a cue card? And then he's going to say something else about domestic. I can't even predict what Conor's going to say. The point being is he's going to go after him. And at that point, what Floyd's never going to do is Floyd's never going to say he shouldn't be in this fight. Floyd's never going to say, you have no business being in here with me. None of that. All he's going to say at that point is I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to dice you up. I'm going to piece you apart. I'm going to make you look bad in there, because he doesn't want to make people truly believe that Conor has no chance. He can't do that because that risks pay-per-views. And ultimately, that's what this is all about. So you'll see him do that at the beginning. And I think when you start seeing like the 24/7s or whatever they call those on Showtime, All Access or whatever, you're going to start seeing him talking about, you know, this is, you know, Conor McGregor, and this is me hitting his head. This is me hitting that big melon head of his. And you're going to see him start trash talking that way, saying, I'm going to kick his ass. But he's never going to disrespect Conor as a fighter, because when you do that, when you go to the level of you don't deserve to be in there with me, then you take people's interest away, because there's already that doubt of, really, does he belong in there with you? So you're never going to hear him say that. He may just start saying the things like, I'm going to kick his ass. And then Conor, of course, will come back with something else, because that's Conor McGregor.
Mm-hmm. Let's get into it a little bit here. Let's actually discuss this fight from a, you know, what could happen perspective, because when we look at it from Floyd Mayweather's side, it's pretty clear what he's going to be doing. He'll be using his defensive boxing to wear Conor McGregor out, and then in the later rounds, we might even see him potentially go to possibly finish Conor and sort of pick him apart. But in terms of Conor McGregor and his game plan as to what he should be doing to possibly beat Floyd Mayweather, I'm just curious to hear what you guys think needs to be done. Damon, what is the blueprint to Conor McGregor possibly winning this fight?
Well, there's a couple things he can do to potentially win this fight, just from the long history I have of watching Floyd Mayweather. He needs to go after Floyd early. He needs to go out and really gun for that knockout in the first 5 rounds, because Floyd has traditionally had a bit of a slow start, and some of his fights, which ended up being a little closer early and then kind of went blown apart late, are fights where he allowed a guy to stick around early, and they were able to kind of give him some looks that maybe he hadn't seen before. Go back and watch the Zab Judah fight. He had a couple of early rounds there. Shane Mosley rattled him, I think, in the second or third round in their fight. Marcus Maidana really brought it to him early in their fight. So that's what Conor has to do. Conor has to go out there and really make this a dogfight early and not let Floyd get comfortable, and don't take away from the fact that Floyd has been off for 2 years and 2 years in retirement. I think that's a big factor for this fight, is that Floyd wasn't just gone for 2 years. He was gone retired. He was basically wrapped it up and said, I'm done fighting. And that's a different mentality than, you know, somebody who's injured and is always, you know, climbing and scratching to get back into the ring or back into the cage. Floyd hasn't had that mentality for 2 years. He's basically been sitting out enjoying life. So he's got to get back in that fight mode a little bit. So Conor needs to come after him hard and heavy in those early rounds and look for the knockout. He cannot go out there and try to outbox Floyd, because he will get absolutely picked apart. 110% confident he will get picked apart if he just goes out there and tries to outbox Floyd Mayweather, because you're not going to outbox him. No one is going to outbox him. Not Canelo Alvarez, not Gennady Golovkin. None of these guys are going to simply, quote unquote, outbox Floyd Mayweather. You have to go out there and beat him up and make it ugly and do what Marcus Maidana did. Marcus Maidana went out there with zero fear in that first fight, and he just went after Mayweather. He made it an ugly fight, and he ended up getting a majority decision, probably one of the closest times Floyd has ever had in his career, where he nearly lost. That's what Conor needs to do. Conor needs to pressure him. He needs to look for that left hand, and he needs to make it ugly early, because I think if this fight goes past like round 5, then it's all over.
I think that's a really solid. I think it's a really solid theory, and I agree with everything that you mentioned, Damon. I don't. In reality, I don't see it happening. I think that one thing we know about Floyd Mayweather is his insane work ethic. I mean, he has a lot of money, but he's worked for everything that he has, and I think that one of the biggest things that I agree with and sort of believe that Nate Jones said to us before is just about how serious they're taking this fight. Because let's be honest, everybody, I feel like a lot of the pressure is on Floyd Mayweather, because if he goes out and loses or if he gets embarrassed, oh my God, the domino effect of everything that's going to happen. I mean, hey, there's going to be a rematch, and that's going to be good for his wallet, but I think it would definitely hurt his legacy in a sense. So I think Floyd Mayweather's taking this extremely serious, and I think come fight night, he will be as ready as he's ever been. And I don't know, we saw Conor McGregor against Nate Diaz, and granted they're different fighters. Diaz is an MMA fighter. He's bigger than Floyd, but we saw how Diaz was able to, like we hear Owen Roddy go on the MMA Hour, and of course we respect the hell out of Owen, but he's talking about Conor McGregor's cat-like defenses. Nate Diaz isn't the fastest guy, and he was able to tag and hurt Conor McGregor. So I think that to all the people that are talking about Conor McGregor's left hand and his power, he has those things. He certainly has those things. I just don't think they're going to be a factor in this fight. I think that he's going to be throwing a whole bunch of punches. I think that he's going to be missing punches. And then I think as the fight plays on, people are going to be more and more disappointed. In fact, my personal hot take here, and look, I am excited for this fight. I'm excited probably for the festivities more than the fight itself. But, everyone's sort of giving their hot take. I think my hot take is that the best Mayweather-McGregor content and footage will actually all be free. The press conferences, the stare-downs, the media calls, the embeddeds, the 24/7s, the McGregor, Mayweather trash talk compilations and general ways of promoting the fight, the ridiculous articles from media outlets that have no clue about either boxing or MMA, the whole circus that you mentioned before, Damon. I think it is all actually going to be the best part of this, and I think the fight will probably not live up to a lot of expectations. That's my hot take. What do you think, Dennis?
I think the key here is, and I think, Damon, you mentioned it, and we were talking about these press conferences, is mentally, how much will Conor McGregor be able to affect Mayweather leading into this fight? Because to me, when this fight starts, I want to see McGregor taunting Mayweather. I want to see him try and get into his head. I want to see him be that McGregor that we've seen before in some of these successful fights, because he's got to keep Mayweather off his game. He's got to mentally try and affect him in this fight. He's got to start at the press conferences, and he's got to work his way all the way through to the fight. If he just comes forward at the beginning of the fight, I think that's predictable. I think that's what Floyd Mayweather and this camp are expecting. But I want to see him play a little bit with Mayweather. I want to see him try not to be too predictable in this first few rounds. Come forward, but still play around with him. Make fun of him a little bit in that ring. Just really try get in there mentally, because there's another factor that we're not sort of putting in here, and I don't know how many of these guys are going to be in the actual fight, because I saw the tickets are going to be between $2,000 and $90,000 if you want to attend. But the Irish fans, how many of them will be at these press conferences? How many of them will be at the fight itself? Because if you got Conor McGregor trying to clown Mayweather in the ring and at the press conferences doing all this stuff, and you've got all these Irish fans going crazy, even though Mayweather's been in the craziest fights of them all, he's been in there with Oscar De La Hoya and stuff like that, this could be a very, very crazy crowd at this event, and this could be a very, very crazy crowd all the way through this. I'm wondering how much of that might affect Floyd Mayweather mentally, and if that somehow can play into McGregor possibly having a better performance than if he just went in there straight and just tried to box him. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. Damon, I mean, I know you mentioned that you've booked your accommodation and your flight up to Vegas. I'm just curious, from a media perspective, I mean, as a media member that will most likely be attending this, what are you expecting from your end? Because, this may be one of the biggest events of all time. From your end, are you prepared for the craziness that you'll be dealing with being there on the day? And, this is boxing, this isn't MMA, so things are run differently in the boxing world.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've already spoken to Showtime, about attending the fight. I should be attending the fight. Luckily, the great thing about this fight is the people who run Showtime, their boxing division, the same people who used to run Showtime Strikeforce. So luckily, I have a great relationship with the folks over there. I've met Steven Espinosa before, and their media team, and they're great guys. They know what they're doing. It's gonna be interesting, and it's gonna be really crazy. And I think it'll be very intriguing to see how the Conor McGregor show plays in the boxing world, because I think you are going to have a lot of crossover audience, because Conor attracts such a wide audience beyond just mixed martial arts, but you are going to have that mixed martial arts audience there, like you said, those Irish fans at the press conferences and the weigh-ins, and we know that's a different crowd than typically attends a boxing match or what you see on TV for a boxing match. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I mean, listen, we've all watched the Conor McGregor fights. We've been to Conor McGregor fights. We know what that show is like, and I think he's going to bring that show to town. It's Vegas. It's still very much, his home area. As much as that is Floyd's home, it's still a place that Conor McGregor's kind of made his secondary home compared to Ireland. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how it all plays out. It's going to be a show. It's going to be nuts. I'm excited about it. I'm sure it's going to be crazy. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of insanity that week with between, any kind of press conference or any kind of weigh-in or whatever happens. But I'm excited about it. As soon as I was able to book my flight to go out there, I was excited just because, I was there for, Diaz McGregor 1 and Diaz McGregor 2, and both of those were so insane, and just everything surrounding those fights was so nuts that I think that's going to be just like this, except, times 20. And I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be nuts, and I think it'll be a lot of fun to see how that MMA and boxing world kind of meld together for this fight, because I think it's going to be really interesting when everyone kind of gets together.
And I think while you're talking about MMA boxing, it's the perfect segue to what exactly happens next after this fight. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. The fight isn't even, well, I guess it kind of is on the horizon, but one of the biggest talking points also is what happens after this fight. If Conor McGregor goes out there and gets destroyed like a lot of people are predicting, does that... Because a lot of people are also saying that he'll never return. He'll never come back after this. And maybe that is true. Maybe if he makes all this money, he'll essentially have, I guess, won the game. He'll do what he said before in 2014. Get in, get rich, and get out. But if he does go in there and get destroyed and wants to redeem himself, does that, I guess, add to the theory that maybe he will return by the end of the year, like Dana White is saying? What do you think, Damon? And also, how do you think this would affect him if he does go out there and get destroyed? I mean, MMA fans are still going to buy his pay-per-views, but do you think it'll help in any way? Do you think any boxing fans will come across? I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine seeing him get destroyed in boxing and have boxing fans say, hey, I want to see more of that. But do you think maybe because of the trash talk, maybe because of the pre-fight hype, people will say, you know what, I want to see this guy go in his own element? What do you think, Damon?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, the only way Conor doesn't come out of this looking like the smartest guy in the room is if he really does go in there and just gets absolutely destroyed inside of 3 rounds. Now, I don't think that'll happen, not because Floyd isn't a superior boxer. It's just because Floyd is not that kind of guy. Could he knock out Conor McGregor? Absolutely. It's boxing. It's fighting. Anything can happen. But typically, Floyd's style is not tailored towards knockouts. That's just not what he typically has done. So, Conor McGregor, let's just say hypothetically he makes it 12 rounds. Let's say he loses all 12 rounds. It's a shutout. Still, he went in there and went with one of the greatest boxers in the world. I think he will absolutely return to the UFC where he can kind of reclaim his stake as the best fighter on the planet, because he can still hold that up high and say, you know what, Floyd beat me in a boxing match with rules. Now, come meet me in the octagon where there aren't nearly as many rules, and let's see how long you last. Because I think most people would agree Conor could potentially last 12 rounds with Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather would not last 1 round with Conor McGregor in a UFC fight, and he can always hold that up after the fight is over. So I think if he loses, he comes back to the UFC and he fights somebody. Now, I don't know who that's going to be, if it's going to be Tony Ferguson, if it's going to be Khabib Nurmagomedov, if it's going to be the Nate Diaz trilogy, which I still think is probably the most likely scenario because it would still be the biggest fight possible for him. I think that happens. Now, if he wins, as I already said, they're going to do a rematch. He's going to make $250 million. And at that point, I don't think he ever comes back again, because if he beats Floyd Mayweather and then gets an automatic rematch where he is going to be making the lion's share of the money, then there's no way he's coming back, because what do you really gain at that point? What is going to be bigger than those 2 moments in your career? So that's how I see it playing out. And considering most people believe Conor's going to lose, I think that's just an automatic pass for him to come back to the UFC and kind of reestablish himself as the man.
Well said, Damon. I mean, how could you not finish on a thought like that? I agree with you, by the way. I think if he loses, he goes back to the UFC. There's still a lot of money to be made there. And that is the end of the program. A big thank you to Damon Martin for coming on. Guys, make sure to check him out on Twitter at Damon Martin, his work on Fox Sports, Nerdcore Movement. The guy is an absolute beast and puts out awesome content every single day. We also want to thank Michael Johnson, Nate Jones, and Cris Cyborg, and Sean Sheehan for coming onto the program this week. What a fun show, Cass. I mean, so much fun this week, so much to talk about. We want to thank all of you for tuning in, and of course, we'll catch you guys with another episode next week.